There's a rumble in the distance, something stirring up the ground. Coffee shops and corner stores, people talking all around. But the words they're speaking softly got a weight that pulls you down. Something's moving through the grapevine, word by word from town to town. And they lean in close to tell you what they heard somebody say. But the truth gets bent and twisted as it travels on its way. Who do you trust when the talk gets low? Who do you trust when the whispers grow in the halls of power where the secrets flow? Who do you trust? Tell me who do you trust? Backroom deals and handshake promises sliding underneath the door. Politicians playing poker with the chips are rich and poor. Every word's a calculation, every pause worth so much more. While the people keep on waiting for the truth they're hungry for. And they lean in close to tell you what they heard somebody say. But the truth gets bent and twisted as it travels on its way. Who do you trust when the talk gets low? Who do you trust when the whispers grow in the halls of power where the secrets flow? Do you trust? Tell me who do you trust? Growing thicker, every lie becomes the truth, and the honest voices calling sound like strangers in the booth. We're all just trying to listen through the static and the noise, but the loudest information drowns out the quieter voice. Who do you trust when the talk gets low? Who you trust when the whispers grow in the halls of power where the secrets flow? Who you trust? Tell me who do you trust? Who you trust? Do you trust? Do you trust? Do you trust when the whispers grow?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Political Theater, everybody. Thank you guys for being here this evening. If you guys are listening on X, Rumble, wherever you guys may be listening, make sure you share this stream out. I'm your host, Walter Kurt. Thank you guys for being here this evening. We've got a lot to talk about this evening. There's a huge fight that's been happening on the right for, I don't know, months at this point, and everybody knows it. But the big problem is not just the fight. It's really that people aren't noticing that we really need to start course correcting in terms of the Republican Party. Maybe it needs to be the administration. It needs to be a full effort across the board, actually, to be able to fix this problem. There's an issue where people cannot seem to understand the disconnect between some of the voters, between some of the base, and the messaging coming out of the administration is not great. The PR that's been going out everywhere is just not. It just doesn't look good. You can try and spin it however you want, but the reality is that President Trump, after the shutdown started and all this stuff started rolling along, and it's been really since the summer, there's been a continuously growing problem amongst the PR strategy and the messaging coming out. And at this point, after I was listening to Mark Mitchell, and I'm going to play a clip from him here in just a minute to talk about this, he's got a bunch of poll data that was really interesting, but it actually ties into something that I've already been saying. And he actually says something I've said exactly, which is that the Republican Party itself has a huge problem because they think that they're popular and they're not. The Republican Party was never popular. No one likes the Republicans. The Republicans, as the GOP establishment, is not a popular institution. It's not a great institution. They don't do a good job. And the reality is everybody knows that, but they seem to be forgetting that still. After everything that's happened, after every single incident where we've realized that the GOP is a useless organization and we hate them, the problem is that they still haven't figured it out yet. And I don't know how we're going to fix the problem. The administration is going to have to start plowing through these people. There's only option. Okay. The unfortunate thing is I worry that we don't even have a real ability to go through this because I think that the establishment rhino Republicans are actually part of the biggest problem in that they actually are intentionally to hamstring the agenda so that they can just wait Trump out. I think that's what they want to do. And if you just look around, you can start to see why this is the case. I mean, you can see what's going on in the Senate. There's this most recent thing where they have the Senate shutdown the shutdown's finally over. And then you go look and see what Rand Paul was talking about. He was trying to get something struck from the bill that they snuck in there that hurt a bunch of hemp farmers in his state. Why was that in there? For what reason? Why did you add something in that was going to harm people and it's going to hurt people's jobs? It doesn't make any sense to me. But this is the establishment Republicans. They don't seem to understand the moment. They don't seem to understand that it's never been about them. The only reason that any of them are in power at all is because President Trump actually won that election for them. He pulled them all up and they lost, and they would have lost without him. Everybody knows that. And, the data on this is starting to become a lot more clear. And the deal is that I think we have 6 months before we really start to see major problems from this. So I'm going to play this clip here from Mark Mitchell. Thank you guys for showing up here. If you guys are listening on the X Spaces or on any of the streams, make sure you guys leave a comment. I do read all the comments. If you guys are listening to us on Spotify, make sure you follow us on Spotify, by the way. We are on Spotify, Apple. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, everywhere that I can stream. I'm streaming live now. And if you always go to WCDispatch.com, you can always watch the show live there. But this is the clip I want to play here. This is from Mark Mitchell. This, to me, is a really, really good take. That I think everyone should pay attention to, and the administration specifically should pay attention to this, because I think this is probably the most accurate analysis that I've seen so far of the current moment for the right. So take a listen to this.
What I found is that I have my finger on the pulse of where the politics of America is going right now, and it is not going towards conservatism. Right. Conservatism has basically become the luxury value set that DC Republicans love to convince themselves will win hearts and minds finally this time. And everybody knows after we see zero action out of the Republican Party that it's basically just a grift job, just a donor harvesting operation, basically. Well, what do the youth want? What happens is when Trump wins an election, he convinces a higher proportion of the under 40 vote to turn out for him than we've ever seen before. All of the Republicans say, oh, look at us, we're so great. We just, we won the youth vote because Republicans are great. And it's like, no, these people are not conservative and they hate you. Right. They only voted for Trump to give him a chance of fixing America, and you're screwing it up. And so I look at these people, even the ones that say they support Trump are overwhelmingly supporting socialist policies. And, that's wild. That's new. These people want major industries nationalized. They want excess wealth distribution. They just want America fixed, and they don't care how it's done. And so I think there's this aspect of Trump support that really gets overlooked, which has been like young, angry online men that have been the butt of American society. And these people are not reading William F. Buckley. They want a strong man. They want things fixed. And unfortunately, they've been around for 10 years. They haven't really seen a lot of stuff get fixed. And now all of a sudden, it's like, well, Trump came in. He was wrecking the government. Everybody loved it. And then that stopped. And what happened? Well, probably the Uniparty killed Doge. Donald Trump was getting a 60% approval rating of under 40 voters. That's just like insane. That's literally nutso. And now where is it? It's 35%. And who do those people like now? They like Mamdani. So you have this core voter, though, and like the keyboard warriors and the 4chan folks and all these people have always been there, and they've always been a pariah. And I come out and explain to the society that they don't want Republicans. They just want you to fix things. And these people are important. And what do I get? I got 300 DMs of people from like mostly Gen Z, but some millennials who are like, listen, I gave Republicans a chance. I'm so demoralized. And some of these are just brutal. I'll just read one.
So he goes through a number of these other posts that he got, these DMs that he got talking about this. And the whole take on this, by the way, was excellent. It's a much longer segment that he was on there. He was probably on there 10, 15 minutes. And this is on InfoWars War Room earlier today. I recommend everyone go watch the whole bit on this because this was probably one of the best takes I've seen. And he's exactly right. You know, the Republicans in Congress still, and he said it there, you know, this is something I've said before, they think that they're popular and they're not. They're not popular. No one likes them. Okay, like the establishment Republicans are some of the most hated people in the country, actually. And they seem to believe that they somehow won the previous election, that they didn't do anything. Okay, they didn't win anything. The only reason they have anything at all is because President Trump was on the ticket. Okay, and now because they're not moving the agenda forward, because things are being hamstrung by these courts, but because everything's being tied up all the time, because the shutdown, because of all of the missteps they've had on some little PR stuff throughout this administration, the voter base is turned on him. Okay, like it went from being 60% of people under 40 supported President Trump. Okay, now it's to 35%. That's a massive swing, people. I mean, that's a massive swing. And now you see what the result of that is. You see the result of that because not only did they fail to message to these people in these most recent elections we saw, but now you know why. People don't like it. People don't like the establishment Republicans not doing anything. I mean, for goodness sakes, they just started getting people through the nomination process, which has just now started to happen. No one likes this. Okay, like people want the agenda that they voted for. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. We know what we voted for and we want it. And the deal is that if you don't give it to them, if you do not actually manage to move the agenda forward, one, the Republican Party is going to be a defunct institution the moment that Trump steps away from the party. Okay, so that it is a dead organization if Trump's not on the ticket, if that's the case, if that's how this is going to go. Okay, and then the option that you're going to be left with is Mamdani. Okay, the progressive policies, people only want you to fix stuff. That's all they care about. They don't care about any of the other stuff. And the one problem I have with what's going on within the administration seems to be content on just whistling around this and not talking about it and ignoring it. They've just now started to pivot. They're starting to pivot and it's happening. But at the same time, there's way more to this than just saying that, oh, you know, it's, you know, the Democrats, they're getting over on a messaging and it'll be fine. Like, and guys, polling is showing the opposite, okay? The data is pointing in the opposite direction. And there's a bunch of people that will talk about this, say, well, it's the Israel problem. And like, no, it's not. Okay, it's not just the Israel problem, okay? Like, it's people not thinking that their vote is getting accomplished, what they wanted accomplished. There's no one being arrested for all of the stuff from before. None of this stuff is moving forward. Like, there's the other problem I have right now, one of the biggest missteps right now on PR-wise is this story out of the FBI, or not out of the FBI, but it's Kash Patel's girlfriend suing a couple of these conservative influencers. Now, I don't care what the reason is that they're suing them. On a PR standpoint, that's got to be the worst misstep I've seen so far. Okay, and that's saying something. That's saying quite a bit. Okay, like suing for a $5 million lawsuit, a couple of people because they retweeted something about you, is not a good look. It doesn't matter how you spin it. There's no way to make that look good. You shouldn't do it. It doesn't look good. It's not going to be popular. People despise the FBI because of what the FBI did. The FBI was a completely corrupt institution that completely tried to hijack our elections. It completely tried to hijack the entire country. The entire country was nearly hijacked by the FBI. They tried to prosecute a sitting president. They opened counterintelligence operations on a sitting president of the United States, and no one has gone to jail. That is a problem for people. Okay, and I've been saying this for months, that I was not going to be mad about this until I started to see, you know, if we were a year in and nothing had happened, maybe I'd be concerned. Well, guys, we're at 10 months, okay? We're at 10 months into this administration, and people aren't being arrested. Now, we're seeing some indictments and stuff like that, but listen, that's not enough. There needs to be more action. There needs to be something brought forward. People need to go to prison. People need to go to prison. They need to start getting a handle on these problems. The H-1B fiasco is just grown into epic proportions, and President Trump did not help that scenario last night, which we'll get into in here just a second. But the problem is that you need to get a handle on this stuff, because if you don't, in 6 months, the Democrat machine will fire up, and they'll tell everybody that they'll solve all their problems with socialism and pixie dust. And the voters are going to say, well, the Republicans aren't doing anything. They don't care what the Republicans do. The Republic, well, you know, we voted for the Republicans and they suck. They didn't do anything. They can't get anything done. And the problem is the Republicans establishment. I do worry that part of this is they hate Trump anyway. Okay, they despise him. They've always hated him. And to them, they couldn't throw him in handcuffs, so they're going to handcuff his agenda and let him run out the clock. That's what I worry is actually happening right now. Okay, you know, at some point, the other problem with this is, you know, are we actually going to be able to accomplish the agenda if we have the filibuster in place? Because the Democrats aren't going to let us pass any bills. So everything that Trump does can be undone with executive order the moment that another president takes over. So, to me, I'm looking at what's going on, and I'm seeing that the administration realized as a result of this most recent elections that they have to course correct somehow on the messaging, especially when it comes to affordability and stuff like that. That's why there's a huge push right now coming out from the administration on affordability. But at the same time, there also just needs to be not just red meat things. Okay, like there can't just be throw something to the base and make them laugh and make them cheer and happy for a minute or not. Like there needs to be tangible results. Needs to be tangible results of what's going on. Otherwise, if you don't manage to accomplish that, you're going to have a huge problem down the road. And this is what I'm talking about. I'll pull this up here and play this because this is the kind of messaging that I'm saying is a problem. Okay, this is out of Trump yesterday on this is the Laura Ingraham interview. Okay, this is not a good answer. Okay, this doesn't sound good, and especially in the moment that we're in with the base, this just doesn't sound good at all, okay?
Does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent.
We have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have. You don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Well, I'll give you an example. In Georgia, they raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. Making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing and very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. They had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this.
So this, again, is what I'm talking about. That's just bad messaging. Okay, like it doesn't sound good. Okay, even if he's sort of technically correct on this, that doesn't matter to people right now. Okay, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the fact that they say, well, you just said that there's not enough talented people to be able to fill these positions in this country. Okay, that's what you said, and that's the only clip that's going to get played. Okay, so this is just bad messaging. Bad messaging all around the entire message from there was just terrible. Okay, the H-1B issue is a massive issue. It is a huge problem for people because people believe they're being priced out of the workforce. They believe that they're getting immigrants are coming in and taking their jobs because they are. They are. It is happening. Okay, it has been happening. It's been happening for years. The H-1B's fraud is everywhere. It has been a massive issue. Entire tech companies bring in giant amounts of these people just to fill low-end positions that they claim, well, Americans, we'd have to pay them 50% more. We'd have to pay them 50% more. So we don't want to pay them 50% more. So we'll just bring in, 400 people from India or something. Okay, like that kind of stuff needs to stop. Okay, like we have to fix this problem. You can't just whistle past this and tell everybody that we're headed to the golden age and then ignore the problems that people are actually talking about. Okay, so the H-1B issue has to be fixed. You have to get a handle on the messaging because if you don't, again, what we were just talking about a minute ago, if you do not fix this issue, heading into the midterms, the Democrats are going to promise the world, not care at all that they don't deliver on their promises. That doesn't mean anything to the Democrats. They don't care. As long as they manage to win the elections, that is all that matters to them. That's all that matters to them. That's all that's ever mattered to them. They'll lie to them. They'll tell. I mean, look at Mamdani just won an election telling people he's going to get fast and free buses in New York. I mean, come on. Like, we're going to get fast and free buses. Everybody's going to have free rent. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to pay for it. We're going to have, government grocery stores. The world's going to be run on magic unicorn dust, and everyone's going to love it, and everyone's going to be happy and affordable again. Like, none of that's going to happen, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it resonated with people because the Republicans aren't offering anything else right now. They're not offering the solutions that people want, and that's the biggest problem. Okay, so until you fix that and actually get messaging back on track and get people to course correct on this, the Democrats are going to gain ground. And they are gaining ground. That's what the Mitchell clip that I played at the open this. If those who didn't hear it when we first came in, Mark Mitchell had a long segment on InfoWars earlier today where he went through some of this polling data showing what's going on. People are not happy, okay? The polling data is very clear, and I trust Mark Mitchell as a pollster generally because he's actually a pretty independent guy, and he's been running his own independent polling for a while now. He's got to be one of the most independent, one of the best pollsters I've ever seen, one of the most honest at least. And from his data, things are not looking good for the younger people. Okay, from under 40, Trump is losing support rapidly. Okay, and the conservatives, you know, there seems to be a massive disconnect. And I've noticed this a lot, and I know everybody else has as well. And you can watch it between the Fuentes and Ben Shapiro argument that you're seeing constantly now. They're bickering back and forth. And the reality is that there's a large portion of people on the right that are actually not conservatives, and they're realizing that rapidly. Okay, they're not really conservatives. And the conservatives have this whole, the actual conservatives have a huge problem where they thought that they won the election. They didn't win anything. Okay, Trump was never actually, has never been a constitutional, old school style conservative ever. Okay, he's been a 1990s Democrat essentially for his entire career, and he's not really changed his positions at all. Okay, like Trump has more in common with someone like Bill Clinton's presidency than he does with, you know, any conservative Reagan or anything like that. Okay, like that would be the better way to think about it. But the conservatives and the Republican establishment is still of this insane belief that they are popular and that they're going to win. And Trump is not paying attention to what's going on around him, apparently. Like this message about the H-1B stuff is a disaster in terms of PR. This is a horrible message in terms of PR. Now, but the other side of this is that it's not all over. It's not like it's done, and that I've been watching a bunch of people try and claim that, oh my goodness, this is the end of days, that Trump is going to be, that there's no way we'll be able to recover from this, that there's no way we'll be able to pull back out of this. That's not true. Okay, like, you know, in a political lifetime, there is an enormous amount of time between now and the elections. Okay, we've got 6 months, I say, before we need to get a ground game up and running. But in the terms of messaging, in terms of getting the control of the narrative again, we've got plenty of time to do that. We just need to actually get on message and actually start talking about the things that people care about. And most importantly, you need to actually have tangible results. Okay, if you want to make some quick course corrections, then we need to get a handle on these H-1B visas. We need to stop telling people that, you know, that they're not going to be able to get these jobs, that they're not going to be qualified enough for these jobs. That messaging is just bad. Okay, that's just bad messaging. We need to fix it. We need to move forward. And, you know, fortunately, there are people in the administration that are actually making good headway. Jack Tron, I know you wanted to chime in on the H-1B issue. If you wanted to speak on that quickly, and then I'm going to move to the correct messaging that is actually coming out of other people in the administration.
Look, it's not easy nowadays for kids graduating from STEM to get these jobs. You know, they are sending in hundreds and hundreds of applications to places, but it's not happening. And you know, there's a lot of problems with it. The H-1B is a huge part of it, but also now you're seeing like all this AI filtering of applications that's been going on with a lot of people, so that they're not even considered. But yeah, and you see, and so you understand that there is this huge resentment now against immigrants because they're stealing all the jobs, and that is what is leading to these people to turn to figures like Nick Fuentes. So this is so if we don't address this crisis and the crisis of affordability, that you are going to have a very, you know, different movement in a couple of years. I'll just say that. Yes,
exactly. I mean, the deal is that there is a way to course correct on this. And the deal is you have to actually answer the people and actually have to fix some of these problems. Now, fortunately, there are people in the administration that are making correct moves, okay, and talking about the correct things. So this is what I'm talking about. It's not like it's all over and we're screwed and that, there's nothing we can do about this. There's plenty of time to fix these problems. Plenty of time. There's no reason for us to panic about it at all. Okay, so like, for example here, Bessent is probably one of the best people to talk on the economy, okay? Like, for a lot of the messaging that the Democrats have been countering what Trump is doing, Bessent is a perfect counter to it because he's just logical and actually answers the questions correctly. Okay, so this is what Bessent was talking about. I believe this is the Argentina, and he's talking about the bailout in Argentina is what the Democrats have labeled it. It's a bailout. Oh my goodness, it's a bailout. It's a bailout. We're giving Argentina all this money. But that's not ever been true, okay? It's a currency swap, but he explains it here, and he does it in a very, very short clip, and it's worth listening to because this is the correct way to respond to these people and the correct way to counter the narrative.
How does a $20 billion bailout of Argentina help Americans? You're the president's point person on that. Can you explain to those here who are feeling the pinch, including America's farmers, why the United States is helping out Argentina?
Well, do you know what a swap line is?
It's currency swap, yes.
Yes, but what is that?
You're the Treasury Secretary.
Yes, but why would you call it a bailout?
That is how...
In most bailouts, you don't make money. The U.S. government made money. We used our financial balance sheet to stabilize the government. one of our great allies in Latin America during an election. The president there won in a landslide. The government's going to make money. And I would rather use peace through economic strength than have to be shooting at narco boats coming offshore if the government collapsed. We have a generational opportunity in Latin America to create allies. We just saw an election in Bolivia. We're probably going to see an election in Colombia. We've seen them in Ecuador. We're going to see them in the Chile. So by stabilizing the economy there and making a profit, then that's a very good deal for the American people. And there's a lot we could have been doing for American farmers, but Democrats closed the government.
So again, Besant is was one of the best people to just have out there talking about the economy because he actually knows what he's talking about and he is able to respond quickly. They're calling it a bailout and they've been saying this is a bailout and why are we giving so much money to Argentina? Like, well, that's not what's happening. Okay, and that was never what was happening. But for some reason, they just let this message grow and grow and grow and grow. Even though all it took is one comment from Besant, and I think that's a perfect counter to it. Okay, we're not just giving them a bailout; we're making money on the deal, and we're going to make sure we secure the area, and that we don't have to deal with narco terrorists and all this different stuff that we're dealing with up in Venezuela. Okay, so this is a good message. This is good messaging out of the administration. We need to get more of this because if you continue down this road with what Trump was doing with the H-1B stuff and talking about, we're just going to blow these boats out of the water and just keep posting videos of us blowing boats out of the water and that makes the base happy. Like, oh yeah, that's great. We're destroying the boats. But at the same time, people are also just annoyed that we're dealing with foreign problems at such a rapid rate instead of dealing with home issues. Okay, but this is with the other side of this. Besant is also the better person to talk about with this because he goes into this again, talking about it in a different clip. So
I think what the president is frustrated by is the media narrative because the media narrative, the 2021, 22, 23, and even 24 during the campaign was Americans don't know how good they have it. It's a vibe session. I still remember that word. And everyone from the New York Times to former Fed vice chair to Wall Street Journal even, they said it was a vibe session. And instead of owning the inflation, they just said the American people don't understand how they're feeling. And we came in, we inherited a mess. We have brought the inflation down. And Rob, there are two ways for curing affordability. There's bringing inflation down because some of the prices we are going to be able to bring down. So energy prices, gasoline,
down quite a bit.
4-year low.
Yeah.
4-year low. Mortgage rates, when the president was January 20th, when the president came in, 30-year mortgage, 7.08. Yesterday, 6.22. Yes. That's a huge move.
It's a big difference.
If we can get mortgage rates down into the 5s, that will help home ownership quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think the president is just frustrated by the narrative because I can tell you that every day he is working for the American people. That we have nonstop, all hands on deck meetings on this.
Yeah.
I think.
So that's, again, perfect messaging out of Besant there. Okay, they are working. They are trying to address the problems. They're just not getting the message out properly because everyone's so distracted with a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay, because the messaging has been disjointed is what my problem is. Okay, if you just leave Besant out there, let Besant be the only one that talks about the economy. Okay, let him just do it. Okay, because he's great. And having him go out there and talk about it, perfect. Okay. He's talking about we're bringing down gasoline prices, energy prices. All these things can be brought down and prices can be brought down dramatically, especially in energy costs. If we start to fire up the American energy and we actually start to produce a lot more energy costs, I think people don't realize how high energy costs really got underneath the Biden administration because it was kind of gradual at first and then it just skyrocketed. I mean, just in Ohio, in my state, okay, 60% over 4 years. 60% is how much more it went up. Okay. So that was on top of groceries more than doubling. I mean, groceries for my family used to only be $100, maybe $40, maybe $80 a week or something like that. By the time the Biden administration was over, it was $600 a month. Okay, and that was only for 2 people essentially, 2 people and a baby. Okay, so that's absurd that it's that expensive. Now, unfortunately, the only problem with the grocery prices is that you can't undo inflation, really. Once inflation has happened, you can't deflate the economy. That's actually bad for the economy if you deflate it. But what you can do, and what you should do, is you can actually bring down shipping costs, which would drastically reduce the cost for these grocery stores, and then that would actually help a lot. Which there is things they can do to fix this, by the way. One of the best ways they could do this, one of the easiest and fastest ways they could do this, is if they completely removed DEF fluid, from diesel shipping, okay? If diesel engines no longer had to be using DEF fluid, that would instantly save them 25% on fuel costs, instantly. Okay, so that's something that they should do. That's something that they should do. All of these things should be looked at. And I know they are looking at them because they actually undid the endangerment finding from the EPA. The EPA's endangerment finding was removed. That means that they can go back and look at all these different ridiculous carbon emissions things that they've done over the past, 20, 30 years, and they can start to peel some of the stuff back. Okay, the endangerment finding was Obama that created that. And that's where the DEF fluid stuff came from. That's where all of the different added additions they made to cars, so they had to reach certain emission standards. That's how they shut down entire industries for energy. If you get rid of that stuff and open up the regulatory market on this stuff and let people actually build and make things without having to do ridiculous regulatory stuff on it, that'll save the American people tons of money. Okay, so that's other things we should be doing. And these are things that can be done, that should be done. And not only should they be done, they need to be transmitted to everybody so they realize this. I mean, for this messaging right here from Besson is perfect, okay? We're working as hard as we can. We were inherited a mess. We're trying our best. The problem I guess I have is, why on earth are we letting the Democrats put us on the back foot for affordability? Like, that is such a bad thing that we've even sort of let that happen, okay? The Democrats caused the affordability crisis. Their inflation numbers are what caused all these problems. It is Biden who caused these issues in the first place. So instead of trying to be on defense a bit about this, we should be on offense. Their solutions are not solutions. We actually have solutions, and we have things that we're doing. These are the things that we're doing, which is what Besson did here. Okay, he laid out things that we're trying to do. We're going to lower energy. We're going to lower gasoline. We're going to lower these things. That is the correct way to answer the affordability problem, not sit here and say, well, what, the Democrats don't have any solutions. It doesn't matter if they don't have solutions if people don't see or hear the results that you're actually getting for them, okay? If we want to bring down this narrative around affordability, the one thing that you shouldn't do is this stupid idea for the 50-year mortgages, which I've already seen. There was a Politico story earlier today saying that the White House was furious that someone floated this because it was not well received. Well, no, it wasn't well received because what it sounds like to me, a 50-year mortgage idea, is that it's not going to help anybody in the market. It's going to increase the price of houses, which is not a good idea. Okay, there's only a certain amount of supply. Okay, you have to increase supply before you increase demand. That's a pretty simple concept, obviously. So let's get that under control first. Increase the supply, which you can do that again. You can again do that by cutting out regulation. The amount of money that, I was reading a statistic the other day that 25% of all new builds in this country right now, their cost in new builds, 25% of that is from regulatory red tape. Okay, get that down to 5%, 10%. Okay, let the market start to increase the supply into the market, and then actually you can start to do something about trying to change people buying more houses. Okay, let's do that. That would be a much better solution. And again, that should be something that should be talked about, and people should talk about it, and they should do it quickly. That's stuff that I feel like the regulatory market, that stuff, they can axe that stuff tomorrow. Okay, that's stuff that can be just ripped out, and they can say, oh, no, okay, all of those regulations are now gone. And I think we need to stop playing the game where we need to be worried about how this, months ago when all these judges started hamstringing the administration, when all these judges came in and they started everything that Trump did, they immediately axed it. They immediately put a restrictive order on it. The reality was back when the administration first started, the popularity was so high, I think you could have just ignored them entirely. I think you could have just ignored them entirely and people wouldn't have cared. But, they decided to go through the courts, and they've gone through the courts and let them hamstring them on every single issue all the way through this. At some point, you're going to have to start ignoring these people. And I know people have been saying it for a while, but what exactly is what is the political downside of ignoring them? I guess is what I don't understand. Like the political downside is what? The Democrats are going to claim you're doing unconstitutional stuff. They're saying that anyway. They don't care. They don't care if you're actually doing stuff that's unconstitutional. And that means nothing to them. All they care about is being able to yell at you about it. And I guess we just need to stop listening to them yelling at us. Like, you just need to stop doing that, and you need to move the agenda forward as fast as you can, because if we don't, and we don't get things under control and start to get this messaging under control, we're going to have a lot of problems when we get into 26. And the last thing I want to see happen is us get into 26, and they win the midterms, they immediately impeach the president. That would be they'll do that within 25 minutes of them being in office, okay? They'll do it instantaneously. There's no way that they won't. You know, they will immediately start up a bunch of investigations. They will fire up the entire machine to fight him, just like they did when he was in the office the first time. They'll do the exact same thing. Exact same thing. This is why it all has to be done quickly. And I think it can be, as long as everyone starts to move on the same page together. Now, and the fortunate part for us is that the Democrats themselves are not actually doing that well. Okay, like, it's not like they're actually doing they're just like flying high or anything. The Democrats have their own problems. Okay, they've got all sorts of problems. So, you know, it's worth making sure that we keep hitting the Democrats on all their policies, because right now, obviously, after the shutdown, the Democrats are all fighting with each other. So we should fan those flames. And we should absolutely be fanning that. We should be making sure that the Democrat Party is fighting with each other as much as possible, because that's what's going on the right. They're letting the right fight with each other, and they're just kind of letting it go, and they're trying to fan it. I mean, you can go look and see what's going on in the New York Times right now. New York Times has had like 5 articles this week about Nick Fuentes being the next big leader on the right, okay? They're not doing that because Nick Fuentes is because he's going to become some super hardcore mainstream. They're doing it because they know that it upsets people on the right and it causes more infighting. That's why they're doing it. They know what they're doing. But the Democrats have their own problems, okay? So we should definitely play into this. And this is Fetterman here. So Fetterman here, if you guys are watching the stream, I've got this video up here of Fetterman. He's talking about what's going on within the Democrat Party. And this is something that we should be hitting them on hard. Okay, like, they don't have leadership, and they have no one that's actually leading the party, to the point that even Fetterman says that he doesn't even know who runs the party.
Who is running the show now in the Democratic Party, in the Senate, in the House?
No one really knows, and I think my values are reflected in my vote and the things that I support here, and if that might put me at odds with parts of my party, I'm okay with that. I mean, we need to be a big party, a big tent party. So for me, it's like, these are pretty reasonable. I mean, my party's always been opposing shutting our government down. I'm not sure why it's controversial now to devote these things. And I refuse to put all these people in the middle of this political kinds of brinkmanship.
So, you know, I know they hate Fetterman on the left. They really despise him, but he is right about this, okay? Like, there is no real leadership within the Democrat Party right now. And this is one of their biggest problems. They don't have any real leadership. There's no one actually at the helm. Like, Chuck Schumer is now, I think I read somewhere earlier that he's he is the most unpopular that he has ever been ever, which I thought was hysterical. I mean, it's not surprising to me. I know Joel and Eileen Bailey still love him. Like, I'm sure his imaginary friends still absolutely adore him, but everybody else hates him. Okay, like the entire party wanted him to fight on forever, just, rah, 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 keep fighting against the Trump administration. That's what they wanted, I guess. And, it's, even though it was hurting people, and they know it was hurting people, they didn't care, because to them, all that mattered to them is they were getting more political wins out of it. So, but the deal is that they have their own problems. We just need to capitalize on it a lot better. So if we're going to course correct, we're going to start getting messaging out from us. We need to start hitting the Democrats back as much as you can. Fan their radical flames as much as you possibly can. Okay, like, make the Democrat establishment fight with their radical base even more, because that's easy to do. I mean, that should be done immediately. And that's something that we can easily start doing as much as we wanted, whenever we wanted. And there's another clip on this that is, we need to get back to attacking. And I think that's something that's very easy to do, especially with the policies that the Democrats have. I mean, this is a clip from, I believe this is somewhere in California. I'm not entirely, Jacktron, where is this clip from, this woman that starts berating this state senator?
This is in California, and that state senator is named Scott Wiener.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Scott Wiener getting berated by a woman. Now, this is why the Democratic Party is unpopular. And somehow we've managed to let the conversation shift away from this, and we shouldn't have. Okay, like, we need to make sure that this is still at the forefront, because this is how we were winning independents over in the first place. This is how we managed to grow the party in the first place. This kind of thing right here.
Senator Wiener, as the only black lesbian here, can I please ask you a question, because I flew here to do that? Yeah. Okay. As a lesbian woman who was attacked in the women's locker room at Gold's Gym this week by a self-identifying trans woman with a documented history of domestic violence, I'm deeply concerned about women's safety in female-only spaces. What would you say to women who are seeking assurance that their safety will be protected from men who, by California law, can self-ID as women in women-only spaces, sir? Please tell me.
Yeah, so we want, everyone to be safe. And we also know that, we have trans people, both men and women, who are men and women. And so, so if you're trans women are women.
Senator, you've done great things with the bills you've passed with the housing. I've read a lot of your bills, and like you said, there are bills that need to be opened up, and I'm telling you now, millions of women across America are being harassed and sexually assaulted in locker rooms. I'm a lesbian black woman. I'm not transphobic. I'm not homophobic. And I do respect a lot of the things you've done. But I do see a lot of these bills that you've passed that are dangerous for women and young children. And I understand that you're trying to be on a level playing field. And I'm here to represent my community because I hear a lot of things about my community in these bills. And I'm telling you as a woman, first and foremost, that this is dangerous and we need your help because you're in the office, you're gonna go in the Polisky spot. I wanna support you. I have millions of people behind me watching this right now. And we wanna know, are you going to protect women? Not trans women, women. Trans women are different things. Women. Listen, we need to protect women's safety. I was assaulted. I was assaulted. No, they are not. They are men. I was assaulted by men. He broke his wife's jaw so bad she needed reconstructive surgery. I'm a lesbian. I'm not transphobic and I'm black. So if there's another black woman in here who wants to tell me how they feel, please join in. But all of you are not. And I don't know who you are, what you are, but I'm a lesbian and I'm telling you right now, men are harassing women in the locker room.
Let's let him answer the question.
So, right there, easy. Come on, guys. If you want to win independence, play that on repeat. Really. You see what's going on here. And I find it very funny that this woman here is she announces 25 times that she's a lesbian black woman. She says it every third sentence. It's very interesting to me that that's part of it. I always find that very funny. But at the same time, this is why we started winning. Okay. The conservative movement and the right-wing party, everyone seems to forget that we were losing badly up until the point we started focusing on the culture war stuff. That was actually what managed to start swinging back in the opposite direction. That was the biggest thing that started swinging things back in our direction, is the culture war. Okay, actually going after the issues, because the Democrats' policies are insane. They're insane, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows that this stuff is crazy. And these kind of people, this woman here that is screaming at this guy saying, you're not protecting women. I was assaulted in the locker room by a guy. And he can't even answer the question. Well, and the half the room starts booing and saying, "Oh my goodness, you can't say that about trans men, or trans women, or whatever the hell it is." No, you can and you should. And this is what we need to focus on. We need to make sure that people are still hitting on these issues because the Democrats haven't reversed course at all. They have managed to shift the conversation away from things that they are very, very unpopular on somehow. The Democrats have one issue, a singular issue that they're okay with, and that would be essentially health care. That's one of the few issues that they somehow, which is also nuts because we're living underneath Obamacare, which is a liberal idea. This is from a Democrat president in the first place that Obamacare exists, and that's the reason that our prices are so high on health care. So even that is not something that they should be winning on, but they somehow have managed to sway public opinion towards them on that issue, which is crazy. This is yet another issue that we should be focusing on and telling people and explaining to people that it is 100% because of the Democrats that your healthcare is so expensive, that the healthcare system doesn't even work in the first place. But getting back to these people, these are the problems that the Democrats still have because their policies are radical, insane, and they completely harm people. They harm people. We need to remind people and play things like this on a regular basis so that the base or members, we may not be happy with some of the stuff the Trump administration hasn't finished or hasn't accomplished yet, but look at your alternative, okay? Because if you think that there's even a slight possibility that any of these Democrat candidates, even these new Democrat candidates that are coming out, these progressive candidates that are coming out, that they don't all hold exactly that view that senator has, you're nuts, okay? They all still hold that same position. They still all believe 100% in the peak woke doctrine and indoctrinated nonsense that it got us to this point in the first place where we actually started fighting back against it. So we need to regain that ground and actually fight against this stuff and make sure that people are aware of it again. Okay, I mean, that's the problem. Obamacare passed with 0 Republican votes. Yeah, well, that's true. Well, I mean, McCain actually was the one that voted, though. Shelley. McCain is the one that voted to keep Obamacare. Let's not forget that. So McCain holds some of the blame for Obamacare still sticking around. So let's not forget about that. Guys, if you have a comment or something you'd like to say, you can always put a comment down below. And if you're on the streams, you can always put a comment there as well. I do read all of the comments through all the different shows, through all the different streams. So if you guys have something to say, make sure you guys share this link out and make sure people know that we are live. Thank you guys for being here. This is the Political Theater, weeknights at 9. So guys, the understanding that we need to make sure we hit these people and hit them on the problems that they still have. They still have all these issues. We need to make sure that the affordability issue and the trans issue and all of this stuff is still pinned on them because their policies are what caused the problem. So we need to get back to that. We need to remind that. We need to make sure we're fanning the flames within their party if we're going to actually make a dent before we get into the midterms. Because their problems do not just, they're not going away. They're not going away. And the shutdown stuff, I'm glad that we've actually gotten out of the initial phases of the shutdown because now we're actually getting some messaging out. Now, I don't know why I wasn't seeing a lot more of the Republican top line out there. I'm not really sure what the deal was there. Like, having people like Stephen Miller out here during the shutdown would have been great. Why weren't they out there in the front the whole time during the shutdown? I guess maybe I was missing it. I just don't feel like I saw that because this is the kind of stuff that, like, from Miller here talking about the shutdown. This is him on Kudlow earlier, and this is the perfect way to talk about this. So let's play Miller here, and then we're going to move on to a new segment here.
It was worse than pointless, Larry. It was cruel. It was capricious. It was dangerous. It was radical. It was extreme. The Democrats shut down the government in a failed attempt to extort $1.5 trillion for their pet projects, including, as has long been documented in black and white, full funding for health care for illegal aliens for several hundred billions of dollars. They resulted in, as a consequence of their shutdown, massive flight delays for the American people, huge impacts on public safety, federal workers going without pay, people who are living paycheck to paycheck, not being able to make ends meet. This was a Democrat sabotage of the Trump economy that has brought record prosperity to the American people. The Democrats, as President Trump has said, are acting as kamikaze pilots, trying to hurt America and to hurt Americans solely because they cannot stand how successful this administration has been.
So the one thing I will say on that is that saying record prosperity is something that, like, again, that's the kind of messaging you need to kind of be careful about, because saying record prosperity when you haven't fixed a lot of the things for the lower, like the younger generation, they're not going to be happy when they hear record prosperity. The stock market should not be the only metric that we use when we talk about that. But generally, the concept of making sure that the Democrats are pinned on this, we should be using that. We should be hitting them in that every single day. I mean, the Durbin was out there saying, well, I understand I can't vote on good conscience to not reopen the government because I knew what it was doing to people. I mean, we just need to make sure we're constantly hitting the Democrats back because they have managed to gain ground over the past few weeks, and it's a problem. Okay, so we can't ignore it either. Like anybody that's out there that's saying that we should just, this isn't that big a deal, it'll be fine. That's just not true. Okay, that's just not true. That's not how this works. I've got a comment here from somebody talking about ACA subsidies. So it made healthcare more expensive and unaffordable. So I don't know your specific situation. I know this is Sedge Wingrid here. So you said that your healthcare has drastically increased because of the subsidies being taken out of this. Now, I don't know your specific situation and how you're saying the negative effects of it. I know you told me yesterday that there was a massive increase in your healthcare costs. Now, I don't know exactly what your situation is in this, but unaffordable for most everybody else is what I'm not talking about specifically the people that were affected by the subsidies. Healthcare in general, since Obamacare has been put in place, has skyrocketed across the country. Every single version of healthcare has gone up in price by a dramatic number, by an astronomical number. I mean, like I said yesterday on the show, I sit on the board of my family's company. In this company, I've watched the healthcare premiums go up 2,100% since I was on the board. Okay, it's just an astronomical number. It's an astronomical number. So, you know, the pretending as if it's maybe for your specific scenario, I don't know exactly what it was that changed that made yours so much more expensive. Because here's the other thing. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were telling me that their healthcare premiums were $67 a month. And I was going, how is that possible? I haven't heard of anybody having healthcare that cheap. That is the cheapest healthcare I've ever heard of. $67 a month? I mean, that's to me, I don't understand. Oh, you're asking the effect of it. So, but why did it bring it up so expensive? I mean, if you go look and see what Obamacare really did, it balkanized our healthcare system. It removed private enterprise essentially from it, and it made it so that there's no competition at all really for any of the healthcare insurance companies, and it essentially paid the insurance companies directly out of taxpayer dollars, which is a massive problem. Okay, so like the amount of money and the amount of fraud that exists within the healthcare system, you can already see some of this stuff, by the way. They're actually going after a lot of this healthcare fraud, and I think they're going to find a lot more of it, to be honest, the more they look at it. I brought a couple people up here and see if they want to have comments before I move on to new stuff. If you guys have anything to say, Southern Belle, you joined the stage. What's up?
Hey, Walt. I have to say, I'm astonished that we're watching the Democrat Party ripped in half. I do think that Dick Durbin took the hit to vote because he's not running again for election. I think Schumer wanted out. I think Schumer went to a couple, take the hit, you're on your way out, and then you had a couple come in, and whatever their reasoning was, change the vote. But at the end of the day, they accomplished nothing. They accomplished nothing because the Republicans, for the first time, stayed the course. But my question moving forward is what we saw with Mondami was talking about issues because in New York City, you have people that come from the big schools, have a lot of college debt. They're making $150,000, $200,000 a year. They can't pay their bills. They can't afford daycare. They're worried about their jobs and the cost of living. They're not winning. This is happening across the country. But my question is, what Trump has done, it's up to $20 trillion is coming in the U.S., but most of those jobs will be higher skilled jobs in the factories. They're higher skills. We had this problem with the CHIP Act. Vietnam, they need to bring a lot of their engineers over, and California said absolutely not. And they said Intel cannot be here. So we're going to have that problem with these jobs at very high levels. But my question is, how are we going to turn this around where people feel like they're paying less for what they were paying? Because they got a mentality, they want to go back to 2019 before all this mess. So my question is, how are we going to turn the economy around? Because people are hurting still. And they've already dipped into their savings, they've dipped into their mortgages to borrow against that, to have money to pay bills. We have the largest credit debt in history of over $2 trillion, and the interest rates are off the chart. That has to change. Those interest rates are criminal. I'm hearing people are paying 25, 29% on credit cards. That shouldn't be fair. And so my question is, how are we going to show that the economy is working? We have to have time to get the gas back in because everything got stopped, and now we're resetting and changing. But how are we going to move the needle economically where people feel like their money's going somewhere?
Well, the answer is growth. Okay. And the reality is once you start cutting regulation and you start bringing in new business, now you're right about the idea that some of this is going to be skilled labor. So like it's going to be difficult to have all of this labor come in and actually work immediately, but that's not going to be all of it. You have to remember for every factory that opens, the real jobs that it creates is not just the factory itself. Like if you hear about a factory that opens up with 1,000 jobs, okay, that's not the only thing that does. Okay, so a factory opens. There's 1,000 skilled labor jobs at that. But then there's all of the satellite companies that supply the factory that surround it. All of those little companies, that's where your additional job growth comes in. That's where your wage growth shows up.
plus construction. They have to build it.
That's right.
We're seeing that right now in Charleston for batteries. They have big construction crews, over 800 working. They're going to be hiring a lot inside, again, skilled labor, because batteries are not simple. And we don't have a history of making them. So that's part of the problem. But small businesses that will support them with services, they're spending money to eat now and other things. So, yes, there is that ripple effect across communities. Boeing just got, Trump set up a deal for 1,000 planes. Boeing is in Charleston, South Carolina, and that's going to boom. And that's a lot of, we already have workers there that know how to work in that environment. So finding employees is not going to be a problem. But Amazon is laying off a ton of people, and we're not talking drivers, we're talking in the office. So I'm assuming AI is pretty much setting up this domino. But that's going to continue to cross over into offices where customer service will be an AI agent. Retail stores will move more to that. We'll start seeing those lower skill jobs are going to be gone. And people
Well,
need
the
to
biggest
upskill.
the biggest thing that's going to be one of the hugest problems we have right now, and this is something that it's going to take. I don't even know how we address the problem yet, because this is something that is a direct result of the creation of AI and technology. Essentially, is that mid-level administrator jobs are about to be destroyed. I mean, most mid-level administrator jobs are going to go away. There's not going to be an easy way to fix that, because those jobs are going to get axed by AI. I mean, it's just easier. I mean, AI can do the things that low-level administrators can do faster, better, quicker, instantaneously. I mean, that's going to be a huge issue, and that's going to be a huge adjustment for the company. Now, here's what I do think. The people are talking about how many are going to go away. You have to remember that what's really going to happen is when you start to see where you can use AI. So when AI can replace the administrator jobs, then you have those positions. What can you do with those people to make more money? That's what's going to happen. So like, you're not going to lose all of the jobs. Okay, like what's going to happen is that hold on a second. So when you're not going to lose all of those jobs immediately, what you're going to do is you're going to start to see them move. You're going to have a specialized team that runs a department that used to run, 400 or 500 people used to run that department. Now it only needs 20. Okay, like that's kind of stuff you're going to see. But those jobs, those people that they replace, they'll move them somewhere else. Now, AWS and stuff like that, they probably have so many administrators that they can just axe those people out entirely. Okay, like that's just how that's probably going to work. And those people will have to go somewhere else. But not all of the jobs are going to get eliminated, because what will end up happening is they'll find other productive places to put people so that they can make more money and do more things with the company. So once you have the labor force, if you have the people are still going to be productive doing something. So what you'll do is and by the way, Amazon already has a turnover rate. They already lay off 5% of their workforce every year anyway. So that's something that they do. That's what some of the larger companies do. So what they did this time is they just laid them off and didn't rehire them. So that's a rotating thing that they do at Amazon. If they're lowest performers, they rotate them out, and then they can reapply for the same position, but you still get a layoff every couple years just so they can continuously rotate the best talent in.
Well, the biggest advantage with AI is learn to make it a tool. And like, for example, we're building a new division in my company. And because of AI, I have 6 AI agents that I normally would have hired 6 people. But now I have AI agents doing it. And I'm learning how to interweave. But what that allows for me to do, I'm going to be able to hire a couple higher level people so that we can grow the business.
Exactly.
And that's exciting. So I agree with that to a point. But the reason I'm speaking is we have a huge opportunity with AI, because it's going to create jobs you can do from home. It's just an AI, if I can do it, everybody else can do it, because I'm an idiot when it comes to technology. But what's going to be growing is the higher level jobs. And we're going to have to do, by 2030, 6 out of 10 employees will have to be upskilled. So people, if you have time in your day, take these AI courses, learn what it is, because you may find an opportunity in there where you can build your own little business at home.
Well,
And
look, so
yeah,
there's a number of things. Listen, the adjustment that's going to happen as a result of AI, and I don't want to have a whole discussion on AI in here. So the adjustment that's going to happen to the economy from AI is going to be drastic. Now, interestingly enough, the funny part about this is that we created a service-based economy over the past 30 or 40 years, essentially. And those jobs are the ones that are going to be the fastest removed. Like, here's the other thing. All of the overseas, like service type positions, those things are all gone. Like they're just going to get rid of those entirely. So those things are going to be axed faster than anything else. But what will really end up happening probably in the United States is you'll probably get 4 or 5 people that are really, really good at using AI to be able to be super productive with it. And those people will replace divisions of your company and stuff like that. That'll probably happen. But the adjustment will be, it's going to be rapid. Now, how you solve that problem, we don't know what the actual amount is going to be. Because like I said, once you start removing jobs and removing people from it, you don't know exactly where it's going to go. Like, are they going to move those people into different sections of the company? Are they going to move them into different positions? Are they going to start growing new segments of their company because they don't have to run the administrative side as much anymore? Who knows? I mean, this is stuff that's all going to play out. But in terms of the affordability, the problem for the younger people, the issues that we have is that some people can't afford anything. They can't afford to get a house. They can't afford to get stuff. Now, some of this problem is because a lot of the places that these people live have made it so unbelievably expensive that it's impossible for them. Like places like California, okay? Places like California, a small house of like 1,000 square feet is like $800,000 or $900,000. I have no idea how you will ever be able to afford that. And the problem with that is, how do you solve that problem? I think the only way that gets solved is you don't just increase supply in those areas. I think the market has to actually go down in those areas, because the people that are just sitting on these giant, massive amounts of properties that they have over in these areas that are just sitting on a giant bubble. Like I have said for a while now that at some point I think the real estate market probably needs a correction because it was overinflated. Because during COVID, they gave 0% interest rates. Okay, like they gave 0% interest rates. You didn't increase the supply at all. You just had a bunch of people that could go out and get super cheap money, and they bought a bunch of houses up. And so you inflated the price of houses. I mean, even in my little town here, the real estate market in my town, because property is so cheap here, it was like the number 3 real estate market in the country during COVID for a year or two. Like that's crazy. Okay, like there's not a lot of stuff going on in this little town. Okay, like the fact that they were buying up so much property here and the prices were going up is because the money was cheap. Okay, so there needs to be some sort of correction in the market at some point. And again, I don't think the 50-year loans is a good idea at all. Chris, welcome to the stage. What's up, my friend?
Hey, what's up, man? I take number 2 and 3 on the computer. I guess my Mac doesn't want to cooperate, so I'm probably gonna have to get a whole new computer because every time I think you would try to bring me up, it just went silent and froze. So there's that. In reference to the batteries, I'm hoping that with some of the stuff that's the onshoring that President Trump is hopefully going to get done here, the Rust Belt will come back to life again. In Kansas, we have this giant Panasonic battery facility. We have a lot of these battery facilities that were for like General Motors, Ford, etc. In Missouri and other states that have barely hung on. And my hope is some of this stuff transforms that aspect and brings additional jobs back to some of these smaller towns that almost turned into ghost towns in some respect because of the jobs that fled, after they went to China and Mexico and everywhere else.
Yeah, well, and that's the hope, really. Like, I mean, listen, at some point, you have to address, like, especially the people that voted Trump into office. Like, let's not forget that the people that put Trump in office are essentially the working blue collar people in the Midwest. Like, that's who voted Trump in. Right, that is the base. Okay, so you have to actually address their problems first. So if you're going to bring new manufacturing and stuff, and it needs to go to those areas, I think. I mean, it needs to be brought up into the Midwest. You need to bring back some of the Rust Belt. You need to bring back jobs in those areas, and I think they're working on that. Now, the investments that you're hearing about, I think that's a huge aspect of it. But the other part of it is the tariffs are also going to be another part of that. I love listening to people that argue, and oh my God, tariffs are the worst thing that have ever happened. Tariffs are terrible. Like, guys, the tariffs are probably the only thing that would be able to make us compete for our manufacturing for certain goods. So if we're going to start manufacturing again, we need to start doing something. The people on Wall Street may not like tariffs and they may not like what it does to global markets or whatever it is. But I promise you that the people in the Midwest, when they heard about tariffs, were all cheering. Okay, like if you're going to bring manufacturing back and start popping up some of these towns again and start actually having manufacturing return, that is going to be necessary. You're going to have to do something. And I know people talk about, these people in the big blue cities and whatnot that have these, $200,000 in mortgage debt or in student loan debt, and those people that have those problems, sure. But that's not the people that are the most hurt right now in terms of the economy. I think people seem to forget that when we're talking about this affordability thing. People are talking about, oh my goodness, all these kids with student debt loan and all this stuff. Like, yeah, those guys have problems, but let's not forget that the Midwest lost 10,000 factories, okay? Let's not forget that a bunch of towns have been decimated for 30 years and that they have nothing and that they don't go to college because they don't have any money at all, and that all of them work in 4 jobs and, at Burger King, and, every single possible fast food restaurant is staffed with people in their mid-30s to mid-40s. Like, let's not forget about those people, okay? Let's go look at those people first, okay? Those people actually deserve to have their economy fixed a little bit more than the people that are just worried because I took out $200,000 to go to NYU and got an English degree that's useless. Like, I think that we get a little bit distracted, especially over this past couple of weeks when we're talking about the affordability crisis. We need to remember that the affordability crisis is not just for the people that are, swimming around in debt and can't get houses. You're also got to talk about the people that their whole lives and their whole towns and their whole families, everything has been lost over the past 30 years. Those people have a pretty big crisis as well. So all of these things need to be addressed, but obviously it's something that we need to go across for the entire country, really.
And Walt, I just have to add this. We got killed in the Southeast for all our mill towns, making fabrics, towels, sheets,
Yeah,
clothes,
I mean, it's everything.
Went to China. Yeah, went to China, and they're just hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the deal. I mean, there's a textile mill that was just shut down in Ohio. There's another 1,000 jobs that were lost because they were unable to compete against somewhere in China. So, I mean, this is in Chillicothe in Ohio. That wasn't even that long ago. Okay, so like these problems are still here. They haven't gone away. The Midwest is still suffering because of the problems that we have with our trade issues. So we need to remember when we're looking at affordability and when we're looking at that stuff, let's not forget about the people that have been actually the most damaged by our own policies first. Like those are the people that voted Trump into office in the first place. I promise you, it's not the NYU grads that have $280,000 in debt with a basket weaving degree. Those aren't the people that put Trump in office. So let's just remember that when we're talking about this issue. Gregory, what's happening, man?
Yeah, I just wanted to, join in on the conversation regarding affordability because Trump in general ran on a platform, as we all saw, on, catering towards the American middle class who were suffering economically because of the economic situation, because of the increased inflation, because of the lack of job opportunity. And that was a big reason why he was in office, and practically the biggest reason, in my perspective, of why he was in office, and something that other Republicans were not able to capitalize on. A big reason on why Republicans lost in the past election was because of affordability, was because they did not cater their campaign towards affordability. Like Zohran Mamdani, for example, in New York City, he was all about affordability. He ran a perfect campaign in that he knew his demographic, he knew who he was targeting, and he ended up, exploiting that affordability crisis to eventually win the election. And Republicans just were not able to do that. They didn't even mention affordability. But something I wanted to bring up is Trump last week made a major move for the affordability of healthcare that got much less media coverage than it should have. And that is what he did with many weight loss drugs, in being able to sign deals with drug companies to lower the cost significantly of weight loss drugs like Ozempic, from like prices over $1,000 to prices less than $300. And, again, this is like a move that really people wanted. The people who voted for Trump were expecting. And just in general, we have, had so much press coverage on the government shutdown that we haven't had the opportunity to see what Trump did other than the big beautiful bill, other than any of his foreign policies. And really, there's not that much that he did for affordability other than the big beautiful bill. But hopefully now in the next year or so before the midterms, we will be seeing that increase as we did last week. But that's what I wanted to mention.
That's another point. Like that's one of the points I was bringing up before is that some of these wins that we're getting, we need to make sure that they're discussed. There needs to be something discussed when it comes to it. And, there's someone here they're saying saving on Ozempic doesn't help the average American. Listen, it's not just Ozempic, really. It's just the drug prices in general. Anytime there's drug prices going down, those are good things for Americans. So that's part of it. Someone's also asking us here, when do these factories start being built to get people back to work? I don't really know what the timeline is on some of this stuff. I mean, the bigger part of this is, I think part of we need to see when some of these massive investments that have been laid out, when those are coming in. I assume that that's probably something that we're going to have to see, some sort of time scale on. I don't know. I mean, I've heard about all the investments. Everyone's talked about the investments, but they're not here yet. And that's, I think, part of the issue that people are having with you're talking about all these investments, but they're not here yet, and people don't know when they're showing up. That's, again, a messaging problem. Okay, like that can be solved by people actually talking about when this stuff is showing up, what the timeline looks like, when we can start seeing some of these results. That's all super important to people, and I think it should be brought up. Go ahead, Gregory.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I just wanted to add on with the tariffs. In general, tariffs are a longer thing. They take a long time to really get the benefits out of it. And we are only going to understand that if these tariffs were truly successful in their mission to lower prices and to bring back manufacturing in the United States, not when countries or companies promise foreign direct investment into the United States, but when they actually do it. And that will happen hopefully in a year or two, but it's not something that is short term. That's what the American public has to understand. But again, that's also very difficult for the American public to grasp, because at the end of the day, we want prices to drop now. We don't want to wait time for it. So I 100% agree with you. I just thought I would add that.
Absolutely. And thanks, Gregory. Tommy Casanova, you came up here. What's up, man?
Hey, Walter. Good evening, everybody. Two things. I loved everything you said, Walter. I agree with you 100%. Just 2 points. I've been thinking about this. I'm 47 years old, and as the country, right, opened up trade with China and we started outsourcing over the decades. I mean, everything Trump is doing now, we should have begun doing everything that we're doing now 20 years ago. And one interesting phenomenon I noticed is that graduate schools, for business, they started stripping business ethics courses out of their curriculum like 30 years ago, right? They turned it into we'll infuse it in across course curriculum. But I find it fascinating how they were able to strip teaching ethical business practices to the next generations. And why did they do that? Because rarely, the only argument you ever hear is an economic one for, tariffs, repatriation. But if you're a humanitarian and you look and you're an environmentalist like I am, and I'm a practical environmentalist, not like a woke far left environmentalist. When you look at trade with China, you have to ask yourself, what is the human cost and what is the environmental cost for that cheap $15 blender I just bought? And I want to just point out that Trump literally, if he succeeds at this, if he actually repatriates a large swath of manufacturing for the goods that we consume domestically, he will become, by just default, the most environmentally friendly president in the last century. And let me explain why. So there are in America about 300, there's like one car per person, 350 million cars. And you always hear environmentalists complain about, we got to electrify, right? Automobiles are causing all this carbon output and destroying, the environment and raising the global temperature. Globally, there are 1 billion cars. Because of trade with China, the amount of just the fleet of cargo ships moving cargo from China to America has the equivalent carbon output of 200 billion cars. 200 billion cars. So the not only does China skirt almost every environmental regulation to produce cheap goods that we would have here, that when when we buy things, something just culturally should have been taught to us in school, our business leaders in graduate school, that it really is important. If anyone ever, what's the movie about the PFASs? It was a pretty good movie based on was it DuPont? I'm
listen,
recalling
so
it.
Tommy, you brought up a couple of really good points here that I think is worth talking about. The human cost compared to the environmental cost, I think, is insanely important to talk about, because the environmental movement in this country, as much as they talk about how many great things they've done to save the spotted owl and the speckled tortoise and the stupid smelt fish and all this stuff, no one ever talks about the lives that were destroyed by the EPA. Okay, no one talks about the fact that the entire Northwest logging industry was completely decimated. Okay, let's not talk about the 20,000 plus people in the 20,000 plus towns that used to have logging industries, that used to have all this stuff. We completely ignored that because, we had to save the owl. I mean, this super important owl. What about the people? What happened to the people? What about the people that actually lost their careers, lost their families, lost everything they had because you decided to just completely decimate their industry? The human cost, it should never ever be outweighed by the environmental cost. Okay, that's not how this works. And to further that point, what you're talking about for the environmental cost over in Asia, the Chinese don't care at all about their environmental output. I mean, that means nothing to them. They build a coal plant a week. I mean, that's how much coal they're producing right now. They are all they care about is increasing the amount of energy. It doesn't matter to them how much they dump in the environment. They never signed on to any of this stuff. So the human cost, obviously, and I agree with you what you said, would be the most environmentally friendly if we started to really reduce the amount of trade with China just by the shipping itself. You're right about that. But not just the shipping, just the amount of how about the human rights that you'd be saving because the amount of slaves that won't be making your Nikes for you anymore. How about that? There's a number of things and benefits that we could talk about, and what happens when you start to repatriate some of these jobs. That is absolutely something that should be talked about. And the environmental cost, that I'm glad that I'm actually hearing out of the administration. I heard this from Burgum, and I've heard this from Lee Zeldin when they're talking about this, and they actually brought up the same point that you did, that the human cost, we can't sit here and decide that, in 70 years we see the oceans might go up a little bit, and as a result of that, we just need to shut down all industry in the United States entirely. We need to only have windmills. None of this stuff makes any sense because that hurts people far more. I mean, if you wanted to save millions of people across the world. This is something people don't understand about the environmental movement. If you wanted to save millions upon millions upon millions of lives, make energy as cheap as possible. That's what you should do. That's what you should do. You should make energy so cheap that everybody can get power to their homes as much as possible, as easy as possible, as cheap as possible. And the amount of people that you would save just from starvation and from dying from cold weather would you would save millions of people across the entire world if you did that. Millions. And that's something that no one talks about. And of course, the environmentalists are like, well, no, just put up windmills. I mean, that's going to help.
Yeah, if you look at my profile, you'll know the banner, right? I'm a staunch advocate for nuclear power because baseload nuclear power could cut our energy costs by, a couple 100%. But yeah, I'll just finish my last point. I agree with everything you just said, Walter. And by the way, you will never find me having strong defense for the EPA because it just really created a revolving door between their agency and large corporations. But the movie was Dark Waters, by the way. If no one's ever seen that, I highly recommend it. But I'm just saying is that there is this environmental cost, and we should be, we should just have, we should be thinking about the ethical and humanitarian cost of offshoring, manufacturing to China. And I'll just land there. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right about it. And the nuclear power aspect, I hope you've been looking at the modular nuclear stuff that they're talking about. This is going to be amazing to see. There's my wheelhouse. Yeah, there's a really cool company. I don't know if you've seen it yet. I think it's called Rivian or something like that. They're doing these. It's almost like a diesel style generator, like the Cat generators, the giant ones. Except it's a small modular nuclear plant. It's going to be something else. Apparently, they're so back ordered them already that it's they're going to sell like hotcakes. Which, by the way, people are worried about the data center problem. A lot of people are talking about, oh my goodness, the data centers are going to skyrocket our energy costs. And, oh my God, it's going to be the end of all days. Energy is going to go up super high because of that. That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. What could happen is if you start to actually move into modular nuclear, those data centers might be taken off of the standard grid, and they might just have these individual power sources for each one of them. That would be a very interesting way of changing things, and that would actually alleviate the grid. So if we start moving into modular nuclear and start changing that up, one of the problems that I've heard people discuss, it's sort of a problem, though it's not really a problem because it's a benefit for us. The amount of energy we need so say we wanted to take, so just for people to understand, the export capacity of the United States or manufacturing export is at around 11% currently. So if we wanted to up that to 20%, so just take it from 11 to 20, we would need to double the energy output we have in the country, which is something that is not easy to do. But because the Biden and Obama administrations made it so that it was almost impossible to grow the energy grid. They made it so everything had to be solar and battery backups and all this nonsense and all this useless stuff. But we need the energy to be able to increase the manufacturing. So the thing that's beneficial about that is if we intend to increase the amount of manufacturing, say we just want to grow it by 9%. If we do that, that means you need mass amounts of jobs to increase the amount of people to build the energy infrastructure, and then you need the manufacturing jobs on top of it. So there is real opportunity. There is real opportunity for massive wage growth, and stuff like pipe fitters and stuff like that. Building pipelines across the country, stuff like that. Those are great jobs. Those are great jobs. And of course, the Biden administration, what did they do? They killed every single one of those things. They killed all of them. They killed every single one of those jobs, every single one of those. And that was the first thing. Everyone forgets that. That was the first thing that Biden did when he got into office is he killed the pipeline, whatever. I said Nordstrom. It's not Nordstrom. I forget what it was called. But he immediately killed it. That was one of the first things he did. So if we want to actually start to increase the amount of energy in this country, that'll be a massive boost to not only to our economy, but to the amount of jobs that it comes from it. It would be a fantastic thing. Okay. So let's move on to a new segment here, guys. So that was a good conversation. Thank you guys for being here this evening. The Democrats have a really new, interesting talking point that I wanted to bring up here. Before we do that, make sure you guys share this space out. If you got a comment, you can always put it down below. Make sure you guys go check out WCDispatch.com. That's where you can subscribe to me. You can also subscribe here on X, by the way. If you go to my profile, you can subscribe to me here on X. I'm going to have some unique content that's going to be coming out for that. I'm going to do some educational stuff about the tools that I use for what I do. So I'm going to do some different content on X, but if you want my primary content, go to WCDispatch.com, and you can always watch the show there live, by the way. That's the show streamed there Monday through Friday on WCDispatch.com. It's also on X, Rumble, everywhere else, but if you go to WCDispatch.com, you can actually subscribe to my content, and also check out my sponsor for this show. That'd be The Wellness Company. Go to twc.health/TPT. Use code TPT at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Okay. So I want to talk about this because this is something hysterical that the Democrats have just recently brought out. I don't know where it came from, but apparently they're now referring to everything as deserts. There's a desert for this, there's a desert for that. It's the strangest new talking point that they brought out here. But I wanted to bring this first clip out here. The clip is just hysterical to me because I just want you to listen to what he says here in this clip. It doesn't make any sense at all, but just listen to this for a second here. Just listen to what he says. This is a candidate for Senate up in somewhere in the Northeast here.
How far do you have to go to find a pharmacy? Nearly 200 pharmacies have closed in Massachusetts since 2019. I'm standing in front of one of them right now in the neighborhood of Boston, Dorchester. How is this possible in a state where the pharmaceutical industry is a major economic player? It's possible because these companies are in the business of making profits, not in the business of caring for people like you or me. It doesn't have to be this way. I believe healthcare is a human right, and I'm running for Senate on a socialist platform that explicitly states that we should turn the top 100 corporations, including CVS and Walgreens, into public property and use their resources to guarantee free and quality healthcare for all of us. If you're tired of healthcare being treated like a luxury in this country, get involved at tacheforma.com/volunteer.
Okay, so wow. Just like a full 100% communist there. Like I want to seize all of the top 100 companies, but let's not like the most important thing I think we want to talk about is what exactly is a pharmacy desert? I've never heard that term before. Like I've never once heard someone say something is a pharmacy desert before. Like
he's playing off food desert.
Yeah, I know what he's playing off of. I know,
yeah.
but just like, did you hear what he said though? a half mile away from a pharmacy. Like,
That's absurd.
down in Virginia, where I live in Virginia, I think you're a half mile from the nearest person. Like, I mean, like, let alone a pharmacy. Like, I mean, this is the most absurd thing. Half mile from a pharmacy. Oh my goodness. You might have to drive. You have to drive to get to your pharmacy. Oh my God. That is the end of all days. That is the end of all days, having to go drive to your pharmacy. Like, I mean, this is the stupidest thing I've seen. But of course, the solution to that, obviously, is that we need to seize CVS, Walgreens, and then what? Force them to build pharmacies a half mile from each other all across the country? Is that the idea here? Like, this is the most nonsensical thing I've ever heard in my life. I have never heard anything like this. I don't know why they're talking about this. But Joe Tashi here for U.S. Senate. Let's seize the pharmacies and build a pharmacy in your neighborhood, right next to your house, actually. I mean, you need to have a pharmacy within walking distance. I mean, what if you can't walk? If someone has to carry you to your nearest pharmacy, if it's more than 200 feet, then that's a human right violation. You should be sued for that. This is insane. Like, I mean, I love these people. I've never seen something so stupid. But anyway, go ahead, Southern. You weren't going to comment.
Yeah, just to add to that, Walmart, I'm sorry, CVS, Walgreens, all of them, they built to be close to neighborhoods for convenience factor because they couldn't compete with Walmart on pricing. But the bottom line, though, is these people can have their drugs delivered to their home for free. So that's a bunch of BS. That is a bunch of BS. You can order your drugs
it's
online.
nonsense. It's a complete nonsense. Like, I have no idea where this guy came up with this idea. But it's not the only industry that apparently there are deserts in. So this is the other industry that there's now apparently deserts in because of Trump and Trump being bad or something. So here you go. Here's the next thing on this, if it'll play.
It's a big deal. They killed the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Incredibly short-sighted. It'll hurt mostly rural communities. Maybe that's their intention. There'll be news deserts. Nobody will be covering the school board or the city council meeting. They'll miss not only the children's and primetime programming, but they'll miss Homeland Security stuff, continuing education, classrooms of the air, warning stuff that comes from the PBS signal. We've been hit, but we'll recover. I'm worried about somebody who's coming up right now that has a lot of talent that's not going to get a grant to do that. The American experience is.
So did you catch it at the beginning there? We're now, not only are we going to have pharmacy deserts, people, we have pharmacy deserts, we've got food deserts, we also have news deserts. Yes, news deserts. That's apparently also a thing. So they oh my goodness, you might not be able to, you might have to go check your local school's website instead of seeing it on PBS. I mean, like, what? I mean, like, I don't even understand what these things are. Like, does anybody even care? Has there been one person? Have I heard a single person complain at all about the cuts to public broadcasting? Has anyone complained about that yet? I haven't heard a single person complain about that yet. Has anyone talked about that yet?
No.
So for added context, that is Ken Burns, a documentary and filmmaker, who once famously said that when Ron DeSantis in 2022 shipped 50 illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard, equated that to shipping Jews off to the Holocaust camps. So this is a total clown that we're dealing with.
Well, there's a good comment here from Shelley Silk that she said propaganda deserts. Now, that's true. That's detrimental to the Democrats, okay? The propaganda deserts, my goodness, you might not be able to pipe in their hot propaganda at all times and all hours of every single day. That is a true travesty. My goodness. I mean, what would we do without the news being able to tell people how much that Trump is a dictator and evil and horrible and orange? I mean, my goodness, that'd be awful. I mean, man, I have no idea. I love it. Raymond, I haven't watched anything on PBS in 10 years. No one has either. No one else has either. Okay. No one watches this stuff. Okay. Like, this is what was so stupid about the idea that we were paying so much money to these companies. Like, 90% of people now don't even have regular cable. Okay. Like, I would love to actually see what the true number is on that. I'm not sure it's 90%, but most people don't have cable anymore. Most people use streaming. Most people just watch stuff on YouTube. Like even Sesame Street now. No one watches Sesame Street on PBS or anything. Like, that's all that stuff is on YouTube now. No one cares about the PBS. No one cares about these companies. And oh my God, news deserts. You're not going to be able to hear about your local sports game. Like, what? Like, I mean, what are you talking about? Like, do people really, like, is there going to be a mass wave of people being upset because their local news broadcasting station through PBS didn't catch the high school football team? Are you kidding? Like, I mean, that's, like, I don't think that is even a thing. Like, I mean, I've never seen a single, like, No one cares. I mean, no one cares, but news deserts. So we've got pharmacy deserts. We've got news deserts. What's the next one? I mean, what's the next desert? I mean, I don't know what the next desert's going to be. I mean, like it is hysterical listening to these people talk about this stuff. But I like the new talking point. We've got every kind of desert that you can think of, not desert people. You know, it's dry. There's no water. It's just completely devoid of all life. No propaganda can come out at all. But it's amazing. I love it. I think this is a great talking point for them. I think they should stick with it. Okay, I got a comment from someone who wanted to come up here. Guys, if you have comments, you're welcome to say something right now. By the way, guys, if you want to join the show, we've only got about 45 minutes or so left in the show. You guys are welcome to request to come up here if you have something to say. If you want to join from any of the other streams, if you're on Rumble, Substack, you have to go to x.com, go to @WCDispatch, and you can find the show and join right through the X platform, just so people are aware of that. But anyway, so this is just something hysterical to me. I just love listening to these people talk about this. We need a dim desert. I like that. That's a pretty good idea. A dim desert would be fantastic. Let's just get them all out of Congress first, and then that'll be a lot happier. I don't even think that would be much of a problem, really. Can you call it a desert if you're happy to be there? Like, does that count? Like, I'm not sure it counts if you're okay with it. Like, I feel like a desert has to be like a bad thing. It wouldn't be a bad thing if there were no Democrats. So I'm not really sure I really understand. Let's see here. Okay, so go ahead.
It's interesting, too, that, there's a direct correlation between these so-called food and pharmacy deserts and every city that brings in that has no cash bail. Right, because there's a lot of these retailers like in San Francisco and Los Angeles and throughout the country where they've done no cash bail, they're seeing that like the same thief come into their stores and rip them off and run out in the same week. And I don't remember the info off the top of my head, but I forget what's the retailer chain, the organization that that they pulled all this data together. But I'll put it in the purple pill. I'm gonna dig it up in a second. But there's a direct correlation with every place that instituted no cash bail, the sharp spike of retail theft, and then like CVS and Walgreens, they just like, we're done here, and they close out, and then the Democrats whine about we got a desert.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a chain that talked about that they were leaving California because of this massive amount of I think it was either CVS or Walgreens. Yeah, I remember
Even
talking
Starbucks
about it because
shut down in a couple of places.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, like, I love it when you see these places where you look at the videos of them and you go inside and like the toothbrushes are locked up. Like, I mean, what are you doing? Like, I mean, like, are you kidding me? Like a $3 toothbrush and that's behind a full locked glass. Like, and all you see is that all the videos are people just showing up and stealing it anyway. Like, I'd shut the company down there too. What are you doing? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about that is that, the sad part about that is that that once those companies leave, there ain't no private businesses open in their places there. There's no one opening a new store there. There's no private little mom and pop shops opening there because there's no way they could stay open. If Walgreens can't stay open with bulletproof glass over top of the deodorant, no way a mom and pop shop can. It's really is a huge problem. But that's what happens when you have lawlessness. And speaking of lawlessness, we've actually got a topic to go on this. Before we move on to that real quick, though, I brought Hill up here if he's got a comment here. Hill, are you recovering from the fact that Mamdani, the communist, has now taken over New York or intends to shortly?
No, I haven't recovered, and I'm not sure that I will. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't know if you heard comments that his father made about the anxiety that Jews and others are feeling in New York because it's a whole new world, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's out of my hands at this point. But when you were talking about this news desert and how NPR was providing such an important function, it occurred to me that in the old days, you had all these regional newspapers, and then I guess some of them were bought up by bigger newspaper chains, and everybody. So it seems to me like this would be a great opportunity for the Republicans or conservatives to figure out where these news deserts are and somehow use social media to augment that if it's even necessary. Maybe everybody already
Well,
gets their news from social
interesting
media.
that you bring this up, Hill, because one of the things that I want to do as I grow my media company, and something that I've really wanted to do, is I am of the mind that I think that there is a huge lack for like individualized local journalism, like investigative style journalism. I think that that's one of the biggest things we've lost over in this country over the past, I don't know, 40-ish years. There's no local newspapers anymore. There's no local reporters anymore. There's no people talking about your local area anymore. There's no one reporting on this stuff. And I think that if you have the opportunity, if you can build some sort of organization, something that has individual, like a couple people per state, like 4 or 5 people that operate in each state, and they report on that. And if you have a large enough platform, if you've got something and you find some sort of corruption somewhere, you can report that and then make it a national story and make something happen as a result of it. That's the concept that I have. I think that this is something that can be done. I think it can be done and it should be done because local journalism is important. I mean, if your local school board or your local city commissioner is super corrupt, but no one looks into them because there's no one even paying attention to it in the first place, how does it ever get fixed? It doesn't. I mean, I watched it here in the town that I live in, Springfield, Ohio. There's a guy that was he was the mayor here. He was the mayor for 30 years, ran the city into the ground, and then left and didn't care. I mean, this guy was one of the most corrupt people in the entire area, and everybody knew it. You talk to people, and they talk to me, oh yeah, I know the mayor. I saw him. He had bands of cash in his Cadillac, and like what the hell? I mean, what is going on here? But no one talks about it because there's no local reporters. And in Ohio alone, I know that there was a 75% drop in local news reporters over the past 20 years alone. So, this is something that I think should be fixed. And social media has the ability to actually have a major impact on that, obviously. Yeah. But I think that there should be media companies, or somebody should try and move into a media company that actually focuses on individualized areas, because the newspapers that used to operate in every town, right? Like if you have a digital version of that now, and it's cheap, and it's say it's $5 a month, but say you have a 30,000 person town, and 10% of those people subscribe to it, so you've got 3,000 subscribers for $5 a month, and you replicate that across the country. I mean, I think that's an easy business model. That's what I want to do. I think it'll make sense. You just have to have the people willing to do it, and you have to have somebody that goes around to your local businesses and actually does stuff. But you just need the people. But I think that there's a real market for it, because everybody now, if you talk to people now, everybody is always talking about national news. Like no one talks about their local areas anymore. Sure, you get like there may be like the local news stations that cover some very minor things, but usually there's only 1 or 2 of those, and they've got like one reporter, and they don't ever do investigative reporting. They talk about like traffic accidents, like that's the sort of stuff you see on those. But like I think that there should be an organization that is focused on actually talking to people in the local areas and finding not just corrupt businesses, but the corrupt officials. There is stories to be found out there that you just need the people to go do it. So I think that's part of the thing that we should do.
Yeah, I think that'd be amazing. I mean, even here in New York, I don't even know who the hell my council, I don't know how many people are on the city council, a lot, and I know about 2 of them. That's it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that can be solved by somebody actually having a platform that's designed by that. And I think there's an opportunity to do it. It's something I want to do. That's something I've thought about doing for a while, but it's a few years down the road for me. You got to build the media company first. I took from a couple different people, and I learned that one of the better ways to grow a media company is to actually have a large platform first, then start the media company. So that's what I'm working with, and I think it's going to work out. But anyway, okay, so talking of lawlessness, this is what I wanted to move to next. Obviously, we need to cover this for the final bit of the show here, because the Antifa stuff happening over in Berkeley, they have decided yet again to provide us with just easy fodder. They did another one of the mostly peaceful riots over there. This is at a Turning Point event where the Antifa people showed up and were just absolutely unhinged and violent. And of course, the local news just said it was super peaceful and super nice. So here, check this out.
Here in the Bay Area, it comes just 2 months after the killing of Turning Point's founder, Charlie Kirk, who was supposed to headline tonight's event. Our Amanda Harry is live on the scene there, where protesters also showed up. We've already actually seen at least one fight break out. Amanda.
Yeah, things have been lively here. While that Turning Point USA event is still happening inside, protesters have been out here for hours. You can see them still here behind me. They have been chanting, just a very, very lively scene out here. While things have been mostly peaceful, there have been some tense moments. Earlier this evening, there was a scuffle that broke out where two men started fighting. UC Berkeley police had to break up that interaction. Later, someone was throwing smoke bombs and a car backfired, leading some of the people who were protesting to run away. The protest was put together by students organizing for liberation. Some students say they don't believe UC Berkeley should host a large Turning Point USA event like this one, but other people are happy to be here for the event.
So, did you catch all that? You know, there was fights, smoke bombs, people running in terror. The police have had to have been called, but it was mostly peaceful. Yeah, sure. I mean, just what the heck? Like, it's amazing. Listen, like, how do you say that with a straight face? Like, really? Like, really? You just told all of us that there were smoke bombs and that there was fights and that the police are there and that they're chanting and heckling people and throwing things at people. Oh, yeah, but it's fine. There's nothing going on there. It's mostly peaceful, everybody. At least it wasn't fiery, but mostly peaceful. That was the 2021. That was the great line and the great image that everybody probably knows and remembers of the guy, the CNN reporter standing next to a burning building saying it's fiery, but mostly peaceful out here. These people. So, can you really say that with a straight face? Like, how much do they pay you? Like, how much do you get paid to just lie directly through your teeth to everybody instantaneously? I mean, there's a bunch of on-the-ground reporters, independent journalists that are out there talking about this, and this thing it's completely gotten out of control, which is typical of any time there's an Antifa event, the one problem I have with a lot of this is why aren't we, cracking down on these people in some sort of massive way? There needs to be a serious crackdown on these people. There has to be. You need to deal with the problem, and you need to deal with it immediately. Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, no, they've been declared Antifa's been declared a terrorist organization, right? So I'm just waiting for the hammer to drop on them. But I wanted to point out something that we all know to be true. And what's really bothering me is I'm worried about, because I've got grandchildren, and I want American identity to survive. I believe American culture and American identity is essential for humanity. We are the shiny city on the hill, right, in the world. And I think what we're undergoing is basically siege by attrition. And what that is the dominant culture is isolated from institutional power, right? Education, media, and government. That's really what's happening. The population replacement or dilution through mass immigration and economic dependency, which has weakened self-sufficiency for local communities. And then obviously the internal division. And that's what we're seeing here. And we're seeing basically population replacement. So it really is. I mean, it's an actual military term, and it's just called siege by attrition. And this is what's happening to America today. And I find it deeply alarming. And I think just at the 11th hour that the Trump administration will see, because my concern is for the last 35 days or whatever, we saw a timer on the screen for the shutdown, right? What I want to do is I want to see hard KPIs on every news channel, on every screen, that says this is how many illegals were brought in. This is how many illegals are sitting under asylum status. This is how many we're deporting daily. Because if we're not deporting 10,000 illegals today, even if we deported 10,000 per day, which we're not doing that. The number is supposedly 3,000, but we really don't know. If the number was 10,000 per day, we would only break even on the 10 million or so that we know were brought in under the Biden administration. That does nothing about the 30 million that were already here. So I want to see immigration numbers decline. I want to see us revert back to like 1965 levels of immigration, because I think we need to put a halt to this if we're going to save American identity. Thanks.
Well, you brought up a couple of really important points there that I want to respond to. One, you're close on the immigration numbers. The amount of illegals in this country is 50 million, actually. And that's a conservative estimate based on, for those who don't know, my family built and essentially created the modern immigration filing system in the United States. And, in 2003, there was an internal meeting within INS, which was before it became part of DHS. And so it was INS before it became all, underneath one umbrella. In the internal numbers then, they had 26 million roughly in 2003. So that'll give you an idea of why the number is so high. And they've known about this for decades, and they just have ignored it. If you go look at the official numbers, they tell everybody that it's 11 million. Oh, it's always 11 million. And if you go, it's hysterical, really. If you go back in 2005, I've got a link that will go back to a 2005 government report talking about it. And they say, well, it's 11 million then. And it's still 11 million today somehow. Somehow it's still just, it's always 11 million. It's always 11 million. Now, I will say that J.D. Vance the other day came out and specifically said, I've seen estimates as high as 50 million, and they don't know. Now, here's one thing I would like the vice president to know is that, you can find out. You just got to go talk to the people. They know how many people there are. They just don't publish the numbers. You just have to get it forced out of them. And you need to get that number understood by people, because it is roughly 50 million, if not more. Now, the other part of it is the 50 million number would be assuming that it was only 10 million that came in underneath Biden. And some people think that number was much higher. They think it was about 20 million. So, it's a conservative estimate of about 50 million illegals in this country. Now, what you're talking about, the deportation numbers, yes, we need massive amounts of deportation. Okay, we do. Now, what I think the other side of this is that what the Trump administration has figured out is that it would be insanely difficult to be able to deport up to 10,000 people a day. Okay, like it would be almost impossible to do. Logistically, it's too expensive. It's a huge problem. But what you can do, and what the administration has done a great job at, is absolutely terrifying anybody who is here illegally, in that they may be deported and thrown into a helicopter and just flown away and then dropped into a snake pit. Okay, like I love that. That's fantastic, because that encourages self-deportation, which is what you really want. Because here's the other thing is, if you manage to deport 10 million people in a year, okay, that would actually have massive economic problems for the country. But what is better, though, is if you have, say you've got 4 million deportations or 3.5 million deportations, and then you have a ton of self-deportations, that's much better, because the economy naturally adjusts to a self-deportation. They tell people, okay, we're leaving, we got to leave the job. They don't just up and leave one day if they self-deport. They don't just get rounded up by ICE and thrown out and immediately just thrown into the back of somewhere. That's not how that works. A self-deportation, they work on a plan to get out of the country, and then they leave. And that is much better for the economy, because then it naturally adjusts the amount of people that inflow out of that area. That's a good thing, which is what the administration seems to be doing. So I'm happy with what's going on the deportation side, because one of the things I was worried about, one of the things I was significantly concerned about, especially where I live, Springfield, Ohio has they just decided to drop 30,000 Haitians into my city. And I was worried what they were going to do was they were going to cut all of the money off of those people, and then there was going to be 30,000 criminals in my city. That was what I was worried about. But it doesn't seem like they've done it like that. They've made it much more difficult, and they're going after people on these visa claims, and they're also offering them ways to get out of the country quicker and faster. Now, I have also pitched the idea, and it hasn't been picked up yet, but I really think it'd be a great idea if we started offering cruise ships, okay? Just you get an all-inclusive cruise. It's a one-way ticket. You don't come back. Okay, I think it's a good idea. Okay, I've yet to hear a counter argument to the idea that cruises, where you get all inclusive, you can drink as much as you want, you just don't get to come back. I think we'll save the cruise industry. Carnival will stop having to have these horrible cruise ships anymore. That we'll stop seeing those terrible videos. It'll just be a one-way ticket, and we'll be able to do thousands of people a week. I mean, I don't know how many cruise ships there are for Carnival, but just use all of them. I think that's a brilliant idea. They're going to work. I don't know why they haven't done it yet. I keep pitching it. I hope they need to drop pamphlets, free tickets, one-way cruise ship, or don't even tell them it's one way. Just tell them it's a free Carnival cruise pass for the Caribbean. And then they just, arrive at Haiti and then drop them off, and that's it. Okay. So now I want to get back into this, the Antifa stuff going out on Berkeley here, because we're talking about the response of the administration. So Harbeet Dillon actually was on with Ingram Angle, and she actually brought this up. So I wanted to let her play this clip here from her.
Laura, thanks for having me so much. It's a pleasure to be here. This feels to me like deja vu all over again. I think it was like 8 years ago that I came on your show and talked about suing UC Berkeley for exactly this type of violent chaos that happened on the campus. And at that time, Berkeley was preventing conservative groups from having conservative speakers and then exposing them, if anyone ever came, to this type of violence. I sued them. I won a settlement, and Berkeley agreed to protect the guests of conservative speakers. And yet here we are. They seem, as Savannah mentioned, to be completely completely unprepared. The Berkeley, local police as well seem to be unprepared, undermanned. They treat it as if it's a both sides problem. It is not a both sides problem. When a violent mob like Antifa comes and attacks like this, it's what we call a heckler's veto in First Amendment jurisprudence. And given the fact that there has now been a terrorist designation here, the Joint Terrorism Task Force is going to be looking into this together with the DOJ, my Civil Rights Division, and the FBI, and understand what happened here. How did it come to be the case that when Berkeley has noticed that this type of violence occurs on the campus when conservative speakers come to speak, and by Rob Schneider had been scheduled to speak, it was a sold-out crowd of 2,000 people, and less than 1,000 people were there in the stadium because people were intimidated by this violence. So this is not a consequence-free situation. Berkeley has announced, oh, we're so happy that 1,000 people came to hear this. That is not the whole story. The story is that when Sonia Sotomayor comes to speak, when the Dalai Lama comes to speak, the Berkeley campus somehow is able to protect the speaker and all of the people who attend. And when it's a conservative speaker, it isn't. So we have some serious questions and concerns about this, and there'll be a full federal investigation. We've already sent 2 letters to Berkeley and to the police to preserve their documents so we understand how we came to this horrific situation to make sure it never happens again at UC Berkeley.
So what particular statutes are potentially triggered here? The terrorist designation for Antifa, but is it this? So this would be a civil rights, could be a civil rights conspiracy action? Conspiracy to violate civil rights?
Absolutely. It could be 18-241, 242. We also have hate crime statutes that apply. I believe that some of the epithets that were hurled at some of the members of the crowd made reference to their race and to other protected characteristics under the law, the comments about Charlie and so forth. So we will be obviously looking at, a deep dive into all the potential criminal and civil aspects of this. But the obvious version here is, oh my gosh, it's Antifa attacking people. But I also have concerns about UC Berkeley's history of not protecting conservative speakers on the campus. And I also have concerns, as the top civil rights lawyer in the United States, about whether the Berkeley police are doing their job under the law to protect citizens equally. That's an equal protection concern, Laura. It's the type of thing that we do bring in the Civil Rights Division. And we are going to be looking at that very seriously here.
So there you go. There's Harmeet Dillon responding to what's going on at Berkeley. And I'm glad someone's finally doing it because for those who don't know, Berkeley has been the center of a number of different things. It's not just this. For those who don't remember the 2015 time period, if you probably don't if you weren't really online back then. But there was what people referred to it as the Battle for Berkeley, where there was like a full-on war zone in the downtown streets of Berkeley between a whole group of an entire group of Antifa people, and then bikers showed up, and then they started fighting them in the streets, and then they ran the Antifa out of town on a rail. It is the craziest set of videos that I've ever seen, and no one talked about it at all. So that was years ago, and that's 2015, 2016, I think, when that happened. And you can go look those videos up. Go check out the Battle for Berkeley if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's worth looking into if you've never seen it. So she's exactly right to say, what is the Berkeley police doing? Because why is it that only when it's conservative speakers? Why is it only the case? Why is it? I've said this many times before, but it's worth repeating. Is how many left-wing commentators, when they go to speak on a college campus, has to have full-time security when they go? How many? 0. That's the answer to that question. 0. None of that doesn't happen. Even though any of the, imagine any of the people from the Daily Wire, right? Like Matt Walsh, he has to have full-time security everywhere he goes. Same with Ben Shapiro. Same with any of those guys. They have to have full-time security. I mean, Michael Knowles had an insane Antifa person at the University of Pittsburgh throw an explosive at him that sent a cop to the hospital. So, this stuff needs to be put down. And I'm glad that Harmeet's talking about this, but there needs to be, it needs to be more than just the civil rights attorney going after this, is what my comment is on this specifically. This needs to be a lot more forceful. Opinions, you're a cop. I want to hear your take.
Yeah, well, while they're at it, look at the Portland PD too for the same things, because we know they're not doing their job. We know that there might be actually members of Antifa on that job, Walter. I mean, what we've seen, with Chad being out there and Cam Higbee being out there, we've seen it happen where they're just not doing their job, or when they actually arrest somebody, raising an F Trump flag as they're walking away. And I'm talking about the cops. So that goes, there's problems all over the place in this country with that have to be looked into. And you're right, more than by Harmeet Dillon, by Pam Bondi. But I also figured, like, I like the language that they're using now when it comes. It's fire. It's lively, Walter. A riot is now lively. When you beat people off, it's a lively scene. The reporter that was you played before said that twice.
That's right.
So when people getting beat up because they support Charlie Kirk or they support Donald Trump, the people that are doing it are just they're acting lively. So that might be the new word we're going to use instead of mostly peaceful.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it is lively when you beat people in the streets, I guess. I mean, that is a lively scene. It's like just an outside a bar and everyone's having fun listening to music. That's a lively scene. This is very similar to that, apparently. Very similar, apparently. Jacktron, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned Pam Bondi, so I'm looking at a tweet that she put out 7 hours ago that says Antifa is a existential threat to our nation. The violent riots at UC Berkeley last night are under full investigation by the FBI-led Joint Terrorism Task Force. We will continue to spare no expense on masking all of those who commit and orchestrate acts of political violence. Under President Trump's leadership and pursuant to his executive order designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, the Department of Justice and our law enforcement partners are dismantling violent networks that seek to intimidate Americans and suppress their free expression and First Amendment rights. So you wanted to answer the question about Pam Bondi's involvement in this. There you go.
That's good. Well, but here's the deal. I'm tired of statements. I want action. I want people in freaking handcuffs, okay?
Right. How about no statements? Like I said last night, Walter, don't make a statement. Just come up with, just give me the bodies.
That's
give me
what
the
I'm talking
people
about.
in handcuffs.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm tired of the statements. Just put people in handcuffs. I'm done with it. So hopefully we see that. Hopefully we see that. Cheryl, you joined the stage. I haven't talked to you in forever. How are you?
Hi, Walter. You know what? Speaking of you, I'm so sorry I've missed your show, but I've been glued to watching the live feeds in Portland of the Antifa groups. So no offense to you. I love you. You know I do, but I've just been glued because it's almost like I'm playing detective here. So I figured out a lot of different things. And so today's statement by, I love Harmeet. We all do. She's a doer. She's definitely a doer. Pam, not so much a doer, more of a talker. And I hate to criticize anyone, but for the love of God, start arresting people. Secondly, I wish that they would take Berkeley, the focus on Berkeley, and widen it because it's much larger than Berkeley. Antifa just happened to organize with their 7,000 visa holders there to terrorize that event last night. So I really want to see if there are going to be statements, I want them to be vast and broad and say it will not be tolerated anywhere. I don't care if it's 3 Antifa members.
The only statements, I'm not going to lie, the only statements I want to hear now is the statements telling me how many people you arrested.
Exactly.
I'm with opinions on this.
Exactly.
I don't care anymore. I want to see arrests, handcuffs.
And here's part 2. I think they should, I'm even like thinking about how this type of legislation would be put forth. But so we're dealing with Antifa, correct? But we're also dealing with illegals. They're in there. Actual terrorist, American-hating illegals, and also actual terrorist, American-hating citizens that came in that are legal, quotation marks, that hate this country. We need to address that population as well. I'm sorry that it's come to this, but enough is enough. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, and now you know where I've been. So I'm so sorry. And I love the cruise ship idea. I think they should also, let's start giving money back to the airlines and have 3 flights a day for nothing but illegals.
Well, my thought on the airline stuff was the other day there was a viral thing going around on TikTok of someone saying that we were taking C-130s filling the back of them with illegals and then dumping them into the ocean. That was like a real thing that went around on TikTok. Like, and people were talking about that. Now, the problem with is, I thought that's a brilliant idea. Like, I mean, perfect. I mean, you know how quick that is? Like, that's efficient right there, people. Like, I mean, we're talking about, oh my goodness, how horrible this is. I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. You could just dump them all out there. Who cares? I mean, that's a great way to get rid of people. I think that's a brilliant plan. So, you know, the cruise ship idea, I think, is a little bit more humane, but at least they get to drink on their way home. You know, I think that's a great way to do about it. Now, Raymond Smith here in the comment section, he was talking about this, you know, saying the judges are on the fix, and that is true. This is one of the problems I have with a lot of the arrests. But my thought is, at the same time, is that even if they are, there needs to be some sort of consequences. Like, even if the judges are in and they let them out and they do whatever, make sure that the process becomes the punishment. Make sure you prosecute them constantly, relentlessly. Make sure they have to show back up in court. And if they don't show back up in a court, make sure it goes up to a different court. Like, I mean, just keep going after them until these people are bankrupted, because the other side of this is you got to figure out who's paying these people's bail funds. Okay. Like that the funding networks need to be taken down. This stuff needs to go. This stuff needs to all go away. We've let the Antifa terrorist people run roughshod for, I mean, it's been over 10 years now. I mean, it's been forever now. This network has just grown massively. I mean, Portland is a perfect example of that. I mean, you see what's going on in Portland and all the videos going on, the live streams going on out there. I mean, it really is just, they control the city. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, they have complete capture of the city. The police department doesn't do anything to them. The judges, the juries, they don't do anything to them. I mean, it needs to be addressed, because you can't just have lawlessness in the streets run by a radical leftist anarchist group that has no intention of making sure that there's law and order whatsoever. Okay, Paul Rushing, you came up here on stage. What's up, Paul?
Yeah, hey, Walter, and hey, everyone else. I had a lot to say. It's been covered by your esteemed panel. I just want to reiterate the situation in Berkeley. I mean, when you hear Harmeet Dillon speak on TV, Harmeet is someone that I think is a great communicator. When I hear what she says, I believe that she's going to accomplish what she says. The trouble is, being in her division for civil rights, she needs support from the other divisions of the DOJ. And I would suggest that Pam Bondi stops talking and starts acting and doing something. I mean, we all agree on that. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, to the converted. But, you know, that, and if arrests don't start happening soon, people are getting impatient. I mean, we need to see action, just as was expressed by opinions. If we don't, you know, something has to be done. If Antifa has been designated as a terrorist organization, you know, we need to see action.
That's absolutely true, which goes back to the theme of what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, talking about the fact that there has to be action. We need tangible results for what's going on here. There has to be tangible results for what we're seeing across the country. Like, you can't keep letting things slide. There can't be no arrests. There can't be no takedowns. There needs to be big wins put up on the scoreboard. We need things on the scoreboard. Like, if I see tomorrow, like if I see within the next month, they pin somehow an Antifa funding organization and they wipe out the whole thing and they take them all to jail. That's a win that I'm waiting to hear about. Okay. But just telling me that we're going to send people over there for civil rights arrests. I mean, it's sorry. Like, I like Harmeet and I like that, but civil rights arrest is not the same thing as, this is a terrorist organization that is operating in America and we haven't taken them all down yet. And there's not 100 people in handcuffs. It's not the same thing. Okay. So we need results. I agree with you entirely. I want results. I want handcuffs. I need it now. Okay. Southern, you have your hand up. What's up?
I just wanted to add in one point going on in Berkeley. They changed how they did the ticketing 2 weeks before. And then they said they didn't have any tickets available because they did not want to fill out the arena. So they held back on tickets and said they were all done. They were all gone. But as the doors are starting to close, they saw all these empty seats. So they let a lot of the students in. So they were playing games.
Well, this is actually a common tactic that Antifa does. And this is something they've done for many years. Is anytime there's a big event for like conservative commentators or something, they'll go online and their activists will reserve tons of seats, and then no one shows up. And they do that intentionally to try and dissuade people from dissuade speakers from showing up in places like that. They've tried to do that for years. Never really been a successful tactic of theirs, but it is something that they do.
They had the seats filled last night, so it was good. Those kids showed up anyway and were able to get in. But it was disturbing to see the hands-on of Antifa going after Charlie Kirk fans. And you know what they said? We'd do it again. We'd do it again. You just make us want to do more. So it's not, they're not winning, they're losing.
Well, I mean, this is the problem that I have, really. The left, one of the things that's really the biggest issue that I see happening right now is that the left, after Charlie Kirk was killed, after he was assassinated, the right, instead of uniting and starting having a real moment of unity, the right continued to fight with itself like it had been for months, and it didn't really improve at all. So what did the left learn? In fact, I think it actually got worse, significantly so. So what did the left learn? The left learned that if you take out someone on the right of prominence, that it's effective. That's what they learned. That's the lesson that they learned from it. So to me, I am very concerned that there's going to be another takedown of somebody, and I actually don't doubt it. I would predict that that's going to happen again, and I pray it doesn't happen. I hope they stop it. I hope it doesn't happen at all. But it's going to be very, very likely that there's someone at least attempts again within the next, I'd say 6 months. I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's terrible, but the problem is that these people are emboldened. They're all of their activists. After Charlie was assassinated, they went online and they all cheered and they all had a great time about how much they hated him and how much he deserved it and all that stuff. It was insane and it was gross, but it didn't matter to them. What happened on the right? The right immediately started fighting with themselves. Half the people that watched Charlie, or not half the people that watched him, but half the people that were like friends with him started fighting over his audience. I was not a huge fan of what has happened as a result of after Charlie's died. Now, Turning Point itself, I will say that Turning Point has held itself to a very high standard, and I'm very happy about that. Turning Point has held its head high. They've done a great job, and they're growing rapidly. And I think they're going to do great. I think they're going to be okay. I think Turning Point is an organization. I think Erica Kirk is on a mission to continue the work that Charlie did. So I think Turning Point's going to do great. And just by the raw numbers, they said that they had somewhere upwards of almost every single college and high school in the country signed up for a Turning Point chapter, which is great. I mean, because that means even if half of those new chapters fail, that would be earth changing for the country. If there's that many of those Turning Point chapters that open up and they're successful, that would be major change in this country. So I think it's a good thing. I'm hoping that they actually continue to do that. So we'll see. Okay, guys, we are at 11 o'clock. If there's anybody else in the audience that would like to come up here and make a comment, if you want to have anything you guys want to ask me, if you guys have any questions, you can come up here and join the show. Go to x.com and go to @WC Dispatch if you'd like to join the show. We've got about 10, 15 minutes left. Depends on if we have any people who come up here to ask questions. You can ask anything about the show, anything to me. It doesn't matter to me. I can ask you any questions. If you're in the live streams, you can always ask questions there as well. I do respond to all the comments that I can. And if you have anything else to say, or if you would just want to yell at me, you're welcome to come up here and I'll make you look stupid, but that'll be fun. So come on up here. But anyway, guys, so the final bit of the show, I guess we're going to have to wait and see what happens with Antifa here. I really hope that there's something that moves on this soon, though. I'd like to see a network takedown. I'd like to see some movement. But I'll tell you right now, like I talked about earlier, the FBI is not having great PR problems, and this new stuff that they're doing with this $5 million lawsuit, between Cash's girlfriend and the couple right-wing influencers does not look good. Doesn't look great at all. So not a fan of that. I really think that we need to put some real points on the board in the positive direction of the PR. There's some good stuff coming out. There's some bad stuff coming out. But at the same time, I think the most important thing, the best way that they could win is just put actual results that matter up. That would be it. If you start having real arrests, start seeing Antifa getting really on its back foot. I mean, this to me, you see this event down here in Berkeley, that doesn't look like Antifa is a concerned organization, does it? Doesn't look like they care at all. Looks like they're pretty emboldened and they're actually more motivated to go out there and be riotous and be mean and terrible and attack people in the streets. Seems like they're not concerned about the fact that they're designated as a terrorist organization at all, which means that you need to start having some more crackdowns. Really, you need to do something more, because if people aren't scared and they're not worried about it at all, then there's a problem. So
they seem very lively, Walter.
That's lively. Right. They're just lively. They're just lively people. Okay, Thinker for Life, you came up here. What's up, Thinker?
Yeah, I was just curious if you guys have ever heard of the term an NPC mindset. It's a
yes
slang for non-player character.
Oh, yes. Listen, the NPC meme has existed for a very, very long time. Yes, I assume everyone up here is reasonably familiar with it.
Well, I'm coming to you guys. Really, I spent a lot of time listening to Timcast IRL and stuff like that. And he goes over the NPC mindset a lot. And I kind of came to an epiphany the last couple of days that I was reading my Bible and I was going through Romans, and it was talking about what a reprobate mind is. And when I read what a reprobate mind is, it really matched up with what an NPC is, because people just don't understand the logic at all. So when I read reprobate mind, it says a reprobate mind describes a consciousness, willful rejection of God and moral truth, leading to a seared consciousness and spiritual blindness. The person becomes incapable of sound moral judgment because they have persistently suppressed the truth. So what I'm trying to get at is we're dealing. This is what I think we're dealing with when we, because I've tried having debates with different people at colleges and stuff like that, and you look at them and it's just not triggering, because something is in their head scrambling up the words that you're saying, in my opinion. So I think it's important that we understand who our enemy is, and as outlandish as it might sound, I really think it's a spiritual thing.
There's nothing outlandish about that. Listen to me. There is nothing outlandish about what's going on, saying that it's a spiritual war that we're in against the left in this country. There's nothing outlandish at all about that. I mean, it's just accurate. Okay, like that's just an accurate statement at this point. I don't think anybody can really argue that. Everybody has been paying attention. If you look at these people, most of these activists, what do they look like? Okay, like is there something that people like? I know people don't like talking about, spiritual demons, that sort of thing. But if you notice something, okay, so why is it then in all of human history, every time there's bad ideologies that are surrounded by things, they always have the pentagrams and they always have lots of piercings and they always look very kind of deranged style of people. And if you go look at the people from the Antifa people, looks just like that. They got pentagrams on. They wear all black. They have all these strange the practices. Half of them actually practice Wiccan. I mean, like, guys, they say it's not spiritual all you want, and you can ignore the religious component that exists here. But I'm a Catholic, and I'll tell you right now, it is obviously a spiritual warfare. It always has been.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, and I'm not afraid to say it's a spiritual warfare, but I just know there's some people on here that get like weirded out by it, and I'm not afraid of proclaiming God's name and Jesus Christ.
Well, and that's something that I think is one of the best things that came from, for me personally, out of what happened to Charlie, is that, speaking about my faith is not something I normally did all the time. I didn't really think about it. It's not that I wasn't interested in doing so. It's just I never did. I just didn't really talk about it. And I think it's worth talking about it, and it's worth bringing up. I mean, it's absolutely worth talking about it, and everyone should be willing to go out there and talk about it, because we are in a spiritual war against a enemy that does not care about truth, light, and beauty at all. So I think it's worth making sure that everyone is aware of that, and it's worth talking about it. Okay, Kyle Smiley came up here on stage. What's up, Kyle?
I was going to say that it really is a spiritual war, and that's coming from somebody that's been an atheist for quite a while. I see it as like there's a large bit of psychosis coming out of the left that just doesn't really like seem real. It's just insane.
Well, I mean, it is definitely real. I mean, that's not really a question. The insanity that comes out of it is that you're watching a reaction from people that have no moral fiber in them at all, because they have no religion at all. They've been, one of the things that's amazing to me is that the left has essentially, they've replaced the concept of religion with, their own paganism is essentially what they've returned to. If you look at what they worship, the climate change, they talk about their earth, and the other thing they worship is the state. The state can solve all of your problems. The government can solve all of your problems, and it's, you just got to make sure that everything goes to the state, which is very funny now that they hate the government because Trump is in charge. So that must be very, very complicated for them. I'm not sure how it's working out. I think that's why they're always angry all the time, that Trump has taken away their God. But it's very interesting to watch. But yes, it is 100% spiritual in that way, because the pagans in the country, which we have a large problem with now. I mean, you can even see it. I mean, the people that are practicing witchcraft on a higher, there's a massive surge of that. And there's actually something else you guys probably don't know about, is that if you go look into Catholicism, the amount of exorcisms that have happened across the country, which there are priests in every diocese that do that, by the way. There are exorcists that still happen. Go look in to see how much those have increased over the past 10 to 15 years. You guys will be pretty interested to see that number has skyrocketed. Okay, Thinker, you have your hand up still. Do you have something else to say? No. Okay. Guys, I think that's about it for us this evening. Thank you guys.
Actually,
yep, go ahead. If you got something to say, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was running to the microphone. I would just say that when I tried to find out what the solution is to a reprobate mindset, it comes back to just flooding the streets with scripture and Jesus Christ. And that's the only thing I think it's going to save them. I believe, these people, they can't close their eyes and envision an apple. They don't have an inner monologue. So some people, after they've been exposed to scripture, they start to be able to see things within their mind. It's kind of crazy, but that's all I got. Have a good night.
Thanks, Thinker. Well, I mean, one of the things I will say is that, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is a pretty interesting story, because it seems that even if there's a small amount of people that are willing to go out and speak the truth to people, that it actually can save the whole city from destruction, which is worth remembering whenever you see these people they live in very, very dangerous areas in places like Portland, where it seems to be completely captured. As long as there's people that are willing to go out there and speak the truth, that place can be brought back. Okay. Guys, thank you guys for showing up this evening. This is the Political Theater. I'm Walter Kurt. Thank you guys for showing up this evening. Make sure you guys follow all my co-hosts, all my speakers. This is a good show this evening. Thank you guys for being here. We will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. for more of the theater. You guys can catch this show. If you missed most of the show, you can always watch the replay. But you can also find it on Spotify, where it's been edited and increased in quality and whatnot. You can find it on Spotify tomorrow morning. And Apple also has the same version of it. So we will see you guys tomorrow night. Make sure you guys subscribe to both myself, Jacktron. Opinions vary. Make sure you guys go to the Rumble page and follow us on Rumble, on Spotify, on YouTube. Make sure you guys follow us everywhere, and always go to WCDispatch.com to find this show every night at 9 p.m. Thanks, guys, for being here, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
Some folks are born with a liberty spark. Their hearts beat red, white, and blue. When the anchors sneer and the cameras bark, they turn the lens right back at you. Truth bound, ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're not the party line sons, no, it ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're the vigilant ones, so. Some folks inherit silk-lined halls, spend our sweat while preaching share. But when the tax man wraps his knuckles raw, their mansions suddenly look bare, impaired. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're not their banker-raised hares, no. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're the vigilant ones, so. Yeah, some paint stars on press room lies and send the common men to toil. Ask them, how much truth will you trade tonight? They mutter, more noise, more noise, more noise. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. Not the theater's pawns, friend. It ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're America's steadfast one. No, we won't be spun.